Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia. How you doing today, babe?
I'm great. How are you feeling?
Feeling good, feeling good. We're doing an experiment, y'all. We are in the middle of
Somewhere.
the Atlantic Ocean.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. We just left the coast of Saint Martin. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the Dutch side, so I don't know how you say it in Dutch.
Yeah,
Saint
yeah.
Saint
Yeah,
Martin.
that's us on the ship right there. You want me to take that
Oh,
picture?
you
You don't
took.
like that? Yeah, I don't know if she likes that picture. I didn't. I
You know you can get me at some bad
Let me
angles.
get a better one. Here we go. What do you think about that? Like,
Where is that?
well, you don't look happy with that one, but that's you. Yeah. Well, let's show the views. Let's show the. So this is the island, everybody. This is what we're seeing island wise, and what we saw looking out the window. We're on the second honeymoon. It is our
you
1 year.
you call it a second honeymoon?
I'm calling it second honeymoon. It's our 1 year wedding anniversary. We've been married for exactly 1 year now, and I'm very proud of that. Like I think that's kind of cool. To say that I married an awesome black woman, and you
One
know
whole year, boys.
yeah, that's 367 days.
It went by
It
so fast.
sure did. It sure did. I'm proud of that, right? Like I feel like it's like, well, one of the things I remember when you gave the lecture in Detroit, you were talking about how you can become a king when you find your queen, and you're my queen. So
There we go. We got
yeah.
this kingdom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So how's everybody doing? Shout out the name of your city, and also just let us know, Kenyana and Brenda and Bobby, Lyles and Sheila. We because the Wi-Fi is so funny, we're real concerned about making sure you guys can hear us okay. And so if you guys can give us a yes, a confirmation yes in the chat that you can hear us okay, we can all jump into this conversation today. So give us a yes to let us know you can hear us. And also let us know what city you're from. Hey, Robert Abdullah. He says, Assalamu alaikum. Well, alaikum assalam to you, my brother. Thank you so much. And I see with this topic of conversation, it's already a little bit of a conversation starter. So because I brought this up. This was my idea. And it was all about that whole dying alone conversation. It's not one of these things where it's like, it's not a matter of digging up the grave of Kevin Samuels or kicking anybody while they're down. But one of the things about that whole, one of the things I noticed, I didn't follow Kevin before he really blew up. Kevin blew up when he told that lady she was going to die alone. And that's when he got on my radar. And I didn't know about him before that. And I didn't even know he had done a whole episode about me before. I didn't even know that. I don't watch any YouTube videos where people talk about me. I just don't pay attention to critics and all that. But he wasn't a critic. He actually said favorable things. And so I want to make sure I mention his name with respect, and people can disagree if they want to. But anyway, so here's what happened, Tamara. Tamara says, I love the topic. And Denise says, it must be a replay. Now, this is not a replay, Denise. This is live. Um, but but that whole dying alone thing, he told the lady she was going to die alone. And then when everybody kind of went off and said, how dare you say this to a woman? How dare you tell somebody they're going to die alone? It was like, I remember he actually saw that in the algorithm. He saw that as like, okay, this is when I'm getting the attention I've always deserved, because his content was always pretty good actually. It just wasn't. It
How
just
so? How so was his
it
content
was
good?
good if you are looking for somebody who could be an image consultant. I heard an interview from Kevin Samuels back before he became the Kevin Samuels we know, before so much of his content was about black women. And he did a whole interview where he was talking about how you dress for an interview, how you exude confidence during an interview, how you're supposed to carry yourself. And I liked it. I said, this is good stuff. And if he had stuck with that, I would have liked it more, but I think it would have been less popular because it was more intelligent, more thoughtful, everything else. I think that the popularity came from Chief Akili. Chief Akili says, "Why did you start this conversation when he was alive?" Actually, we did. We had this conversation
We
when he
have
was alive.
plenty of
Oh,
conversations like this.
believe me, I never ran away from a conversation. So we did have this conversation when he was alive. So don't think. Just go back and find the content, brother. We've been talking about this for a minute. And what happened was it got a little bit off balance. I think that when he saw, okay, this is my thing, this bringing a black woman on to tell her what's wrong with her, which is pretty much 80% of the content. If you go look at the last 10 videos he did, the last I wouldn't say 8 to 10 videos had an image of a black woman, and it would use the same terms, modern women. It would be like, it became like almost branded, like modern woman thinks she's the prize, or a single mother of 3 thinks men should fight for her, or, and then the whole die alone. I think there's about probably 50 videos with the term die alone in there, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to double check. But I remember, so without even criticizing it or debating it, I just wanted to dig into that term die alone and really help the brothers out a little bit on this. And I'd love to get your thoughts on some of this. But I thought it was really interesting that we talked about dying alone, and they only talked about it in terms of women. They only talk about like only women are at risk of dying alone if you don't change this. So the whole conversation was, if you don't act right, if you don't shift this, if you don't lower your expectations, whatever people felt, you're going to die alone. And I thought it was interesting to me because I said, y'all act like men can't die alone too. Y'all act like there aren't men who die alone and then are not happy to die alone. Like, a lot of people, I think one of the first comments that was made, I want to acknowledge it. Crimson King said, as a man, yeah, we do. I guess he said something about die alone. He says, but most men don't mind being alone because we are less emotional. I want to get your thoughts on that. You have a lot, right. The idea that men are less emotional. I mean, I get it. I understand. Like, I think that we express our emotion differently, but as a therapist, you see a lot of interesting things coming from men in terms of emotion. I think that's a huge myth that men are not emotional. What do y'all think? And Dr. Alicia, I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Men have emotion. I mean, human beings have emotion. The problem is that I don't know if men really want to die alone. Maybe they're just afraid to make themselves vulnerable and put themselves in a situation where they can open up and love someone. I guess men have been hurt in the past. And so I think like building up that wall helps to protect them. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the idea that men are not emotional is directly contradicted by the emotional reaction that men have had to criticism of Kevin Samuels. Like, they get straight bitchy on your ass. Like, they get real dramatic. Like, what's wrong with you? How dare you? They kind of.
Yeah, well, I think his audience for sure is hurting right now because their leader, quote unquote, is not around. And so I think they may be, they're looking for a home. They're looking for a new home right now.
Well, I think that your home should be.
And they're very vocal. They're very present on social media, and I'm sure they have a lot of things to say about what we talk about today, especially me. I think I get beat up quite a bit by the Kevin Samuels group. Mm-hmm. But it just tells us that there is an entire subgroup of Black men out there who are walking around in pain. Mm-hmm. That's what I see. That's what I see. And it would be really nice if they had an avenue to open up and to focus a little bit more on healing instead of the divisiveness. And hopefully, I have hope. I have hope for all of us, actually, that we can find an avenue and find some way to release some of our anger, which is rightfully so. I mean, the most compassionate thing you can do for somebody is to allow them to be angry about things that have happened to them. But I think that the anger can't turn into this bitterness. The anger can turn into some movement in a direction where you can be a little bit more positive about the future, more positive about women in general, and I don't want any of them to die alone. I want them to be able to take, Kevin Samuels' story and his history. He was married twice. That tells me that he did not want to die alone himself, that he wanted to have somebody close to him, that he took a chance twice on love and it didn't work. And I think that that it seemed as if he was willing to put himself out there yet again for a third time, maybe date around. I don't know. We don't know what his intentions were, but he has a family that he left behind, and that's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, by the way, you listen to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins, and if you want to get some free resources, my wife's a full professor of social work and a licensed therapist. And so we're really big on mindset, money mindset, relationship mindset, just eliminating drama and trauma from your life. So if you'd like some free resources and a free copy of a book that we put together, feel free to go to boyceandalicia.com. You can sign up there. Hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. So let me jump in and let me mention this. So Chief Akili made another good comment. He says Kevin had full men shows for 3 or 4 years, telling guys to get their stuff together unless they wanted to die alone too. He told guys to get off the couch and move out of their parents' house and everything. Yeah, and I think though, and I saw some of that stuff. I never watched a full show. I'm not gonna lie, because I don't really watch a lot of YouTube videos except for stuff about track and field or poker. And I was very sad that North Carolina A&T just lost their track and field coach to Tennessee, and North Carolina A&T had one of the best track programs in the country, and they just lost this brother. I forgot his name, but he just went to Tennessee, a mediocre program. So I was kind of mad about that. It has to be about the money.
It is about the money, you know, that because I teach at a real small liberal arts school, and that's what people do. A budding coach, you take a pay cut, you go to these small schools, you build up a really good team, and then the players get all excited about you, and then next thing you know, at the end of the season, you're gone. And it's really in the players that they leave behind are broken and disappointed and really hurt and upset by that, by the way.
Yeah. I wish there was a way he could have stayed. You know, I mean, don't they have alumni that can raise money to keep the guy there or something? I mean, it's crazy that these white schools get the best black coaches. That really makes me mad.
Yeah, they have the resources, and you know, really the coaches are torn. Like I feel kind of. Now I want to see things. I just talked about from the side of the players, but also from the side of the coach. You know, the coach's perspective is just that I got to feed my family. You know, I'm here at this school making pennies and hardly living because the pay is not that great. A track coach at a small school like that, they're not making a lot of money. And so they get these nice, juicy offers and you can't turn it down.
Well, you can. I mean, I turned down the chance to work for white universities and make money. I wanted to go to Howard, and Howard literally, it was crazy. I was making $115,000 a year. They offered me like $35,000 to live in a more expensive city, and I was still trying to figure out how to make it work because I wanted that badly to be around black students. So, because it couldn't work, there was a Chinese man that interviewed me to decide if I could teach at Howard, and I remember being deeply offended by the idea that a Chinese man was deciding if I should teach African Americans. I said, "There's nowhere in China I can go where I will find an African American who gets to decide if a Chinese man gets to teach Chinese young people." Like, that's how backward the world is. So that's what led me to create the Black Business School, is because I said, I got to find a way to get closer to my people, and I got to make it work economically. So I kind of wish there was a way, like I wish at North Carolina A&T, they had an alumni base that gave money to the school to say, hey, if it's about an extra 50, 100,000 a year, we can get that money for you. Like, but don't just run off to the white man's money just because, you know, his house looks a little shinier. But
you don't know people's situation, and I'm almost certain it was not an easy decision. You know, sometimes it's a hard decision for these coaches, and they want to make a name for themselves.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to the topic. Okay, so I'm going to get back to Chief Akili's comment. You mentioned, Chief Akili, that Kevin Samuels did a lot of shows about men for years, and you're right, nobody watched those shows. People didn't really start watching Kevin Samuels until he was consistently bashing black women. So it's not so much a fault of Kevin's. He just kind of went with the algorithm. But if you recall, his content before the last 2 years, in my view, was extremely good. Like, I think it was good advice for young people for the most part. It wasn't exactly the same advice I would give, because I think that when you focus too much on how much money somebody makes or how they look or how they dress,
appearance,
right, that's shallow, that's superficial. Those are, and so I would argue that any man who judges the woman he's going to have by his side solely by what she looks like, is not an intelligent man. And any woman who judges men solely by how much money they make is not an intelligent woman, because I know a lot of very wealthy men who will ruin your life. They'll give you an STD and beat your ass. I know plenty of drop dead gorgeous women who will get you locked up and killed. So I think that young people have to receive advice that goes deeper than just, okay, I'm looking good and I have a degree and I have a little money, so that makes me a high quality catch. That's just not the way the world works. Dating is much more complicated than that. it seems like we missed out on some of that in the conversation.
What's the dating world like? Because you spent a lot more time dating than I did. What's the dating world like, Boyce?
Well, the dating world, some of what some of these guys say is actually true in the dating world. When I was in my 30s and early 40s and I was still single, wasn't married yet,
Mm-hmm.
I met a lot of really high quality black women who had no dating options at all, or very few. They might have had options in terms of men that would come over and sleep with them or be with them for a little while, but it wasn't a dating world I really wanted to be in because I remember feeling like the expectations are just gone. Like it got to the point, like dating in my 20s was very different from dating in my 30s and then dating in my early 40s because you and I got together when I was in my mid 40s. Um, because I noticed that each generation, either things got really much easier for me, maybe because I just leveled up so much, or the world leveled down, or maybe it was both. Like like that woman who was super, who had 1,000 options when she was 28. You meet her again, she's 38. She's treating you a little
Her
bit
whole
different.
perspective is different at that
Yeah,
point.
her perspective is different because she's looking
Mm.
for something different, but also she's starting to see the value in men that have things like education and stability. And I think that's something, honestly, I think that there's some truth to that. When I hear men critique that,
Mm-hmm.
that to me is a symptom of the missing father in my view. I think the father,
Mm.
because I've heard a lot of women tell me like their mothers would tell them like don't be worrying about no boys, go to medical school and be in school till you're 34, 35 years old. And that's not consistent with nature
So
in terms
moms
of,
would tell them this.
well, yeah, I knew
That's
somebody.
what you heard. I'm
Yeah,
I'm just interviewing you at this
yeah.
point.
I one time I tried to I when I was 29 years old, I tried to date a woman who's becoming a medical doctor. And one of the things that one reflection she had was she said, my mother was like a lot of mothers, and she told me, go to school, go to school, go to school, and don't worry about dating. And she said, now like I'm dating and I don't know what to do. And she was right. She
What? So
did.
she never spent any of her
She was
early years dating?
let me
Like,
just
what is
I
that?
can only
What you
speak
gonna do on a Friday
I
night?
can only speak about that one person. What she did on a
Okay.
Friday night was she was studying. She would be at the hospital. And dating her was terrible. I didn't want to date her. I said, you work all the time. How am I going to date you? You're in the hospital all the time. So
Well,
that in
okay.
fact
I
that
just know a lot of medical doctors who date, so I don't.
they might date, but
That's
it's a
interesting.
different process. Like
Uh huh.
if you're
Well, they
dating.
usually dating at the hospital. Like I worked at the hospital,
Hmm.
and there was a lot of doctors trying to hit on me. I was
Yeah,
like, okay,
and I think the question
yeah.
is like, if they're hitting on you, why are they hitting on you? Are they hitting on you? Not you in particular. I'm talking about just generally. If a doctor is hitting on a nurse, it could be because he says, "Wow, that's a great woman. I want to marry her," or it could be because he's saying, "I need somebody to have sex with besides my wife."
I have no idea what their intentions
Right,
were.
right. And I think
But
that's.
I got the energy that their intention was not just to sleep around. I got
Mhm.
the impression that they really were looking for someone so that they didn't have to die alone because they're in this
Well, that
hospital
too.
all day long.
Well,
Like that was the feeling I got, but I don't really
mm,
know.
well, I think a smart man thinks that in the sense
Uh
of
huh.
like, it's almost like in life you kind of have to invest in relationships early. It's just like stock investments. Like if you don't invest for retirement, then you'll have nothing when you retire. And
Mm.
there are a lot of men I've seen where maybe in their 30s and 40s they have a lot of options and they say, well, why would I ever settle down? Look at how many choices I have. But then you get a little bit older and your body starts to fall apart. You're in the hospital a lot. And next thing you know, you look around and you realize you don't have anybody in your life that really truly cares about you. And I've
Mm.
seen that happen. Like a lot of times if you go to a nursing home and you see that 80-year-old man that nobody visits at Christmas time, it's because he didn't invest in any relationships in his
Well,
life.
I'll tell you one thing. Okay, because as a social worker, you get around to a bunch of different places. So I know nursing homes. There, first of all, there's not a lot of men in nursing homes. Nursing homes are 95% white women.
Mm.
Like white women outlive everybody. First of all, so you don't really see too many men there. And I want to say something about the hospital. So like I just remember a lot of my social work colleagues. I didn't work in the hospital full time, only worked there part time, but a lot of my social work colleagues, they were marrying doctors.
Hmm.
So they were there. So I think I just want to go back to that because I think that some of those physicians were interested in settling down.
Hmm.
And, some of them, were very friendly,
Oh,
friendly to me.
I
I think
would.
they really were.
Well, I would never say that none of them were interested in settling down. And
Yeah.
I think whether or not a man's interested in settling down depends on a lot of things, but one of which is, what woman is he talking to? Even when I was single, there were women I met where my plan was to try to see if I was going to settle down. But then there'd be times I'd be like, I'm never going to settle down with you, but I like you enough to spend time with you, or whatever
Uh-huh.
that means,
Whatever
right?
that means.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's it is. It's like anything else. You invest more heavily in the things that you think are going to be more impactful in your life, and some people are not. Um, I think that just the whole skill of a person, how they present themselves, is extremely important. I think
Hmm.
that for women, like for example, I was talking to a young lady, and I was, she was asking me about guys and everything. She was in her 20s, and I said, "Look, I'll just give you my 2 cents." I said, I said your gift and your challenge is that you are a very classy woman. You're the kind of woman that a man knows the only serious men are going to come after, and a man needs to know, a serious man needs to be serious in order to be with you, because you're a serious person. I said, and the problem is that you look around and you see all these girls twerking and showing booty on Instagram and everything else. And I said, you can't try to compete with that, because those girls are always going to have more likes on their page than you. They're going to get more attention than you. And I said, but remember, in the dating market, you've been trained to present yourself as Bloomingdale's, and Bloomingdale's should never try to lower their prices to compete with Walmart. Bloomingdale's,
Well, the thing is
if
that
Bloomingdale's competes with Walmart, Bloomingdale's would dilute the
did
value
she feel like
of
she
what
was
they're.
competing with someone?
Yes,
Like I don't
yes,
know. I
yes,
wish
she
I could have.
was.
I wish I could have spoken to her. I don't know who you're talking about, but I wish I would have spoken to her because Bloomingdale's just get Bloomingdale shoppers. That's all it is. I was single for some time in my 40s, and I ain't gonna lie, there was a lot out there. There are a lot of prospects out there.
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm
Hmm.
Bloomingdale's or Walmart, but I know that there was some really nice professional men that were options. There
Yeah,
was
well,
Levelland.
remember the thing is,
There was quite a few out
but
there.
remember the thing is that some women have more options than others. Everybody has options for
Wait,
sex.
some
Everybody,
women
every
have more options
yes,
than others.
some women have
How
more,
so?
just like some men have more options. When I became rich and famous and had a PhD, my options were seemingly endless. I rarely met a single woman who I really honestly, I'm not even gonna say that, I'm gonna say this as humbly as I can, where if I'd really made an attempt, she would have at least given me consideration,
Okay.
right? And I'm not trying to say I'm Morris Chestnut. I'm not, or whatever, or Idris Elba. But at the same time, it's like some people have more options than others. So I think that even for you, you had NBA players trying to hit on you. You had NFL stars hitting on you. You had guys that were
Yeah,
it
but
weren't
if the
right. So you got to remember your experience ain't the same as everybody else's, and
okay.
I think that sometimes you forget that.
Well, what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter who I have. It's um geez, what I'm saying is that different people, different types of women will always have different types of men hitting on them.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just the who you attract. You're gonna attract somebody.
Where everybody
I
attracts
mean,
somebody.
just because we're here on this big old ship.
Hmm.
Look at all the couples on this ship.
Right.
It's a
And
bunch of
and
different ages, bunch of different sizes, bunch of different income levels, but they coupled up.
I have seen a lot of
So
couples. Yes.
it's still you're gonna find Walmart will find Walmart, Bloomingdale's will find
But
Bloomingdale's,
let's. I
Target is gonna find Target. It's still options no matter what at each store. That's what I'm saying.
that is true, and I do agree with that. I don't disagree, and
Yeah.
I'll say that. It's let's not forget the statistics. The statistical data is basically saying that because of mass incarceration, there is an oversupply of marriage eligible black women relative to marriage eligible black men. The Economist wrote an article about it. And I don't think they were trying to be pessimistic. I think they were looking at Joe Biden's mass incarceration and what it did to the black family. They sent so many men to prison. I mean, it's unbelievable. In fact, if I was to ask in this chat, how many of y'all have an uncle or a brother or a father who went to prison? Say something. I have an uncle who went to prison. I have a brother who went to prison. I have a father who went to prison. A lot of people in this group would say yes. So what that's done is it's kind of it's not just taken a lot of men out of the dating market, but it's also changed the culture. In fact, now we glorify drug dealers in our music. We glorify thugs. We glorify toxicity, right? So what that does is that makes the men behave differently because they're imitating the thugs they see on TV. Some of them, not all of them.
Okay.
But it also, what it also does
Mhm.
is it makes the women behave differently because they think that the men that, the men that are not good for you are the ones that you want. Even Beyonce did a whole song about how she wanted to date a gangster or whatever, which was really awkward because there are a lot of guys who were like, I don't want to be a gang. And so this goes to Musa's point. Musa says, what about the women who wouldn't even look at a bus driver or a garbage man? I don't think I honestly, Musa, I think that's
I know a lot of bus
right.
drivers dating people.
Right.
This is what I don't get.
Right. So I don't think that Musa is a fair comment to make because I know plenty of bus drivers who get plenty of ass.
They
So
sure do.
how many of y'all know
On their
how many of y'all know know bus drivers who got women? Now, one of the things that y'all need to really let go of is the idea that every woman is available for you. Like a lot of times guys will say, "Oh, your standards are too high," because they wanted to find this girl in the room, and she's like, "Well, I got options better than you because I don't want to date a bus driver, or I don't want to date a short guy, or I don't want to date a guy like you." So the guy gets mad, and but it's like it's not that she's turning down every person that she could be with. She's just turning you down. So sometimes guys will be like, "These women, their expectations are too high," and I see that as almost like men who are maybe a little bitter because the woman they wanted didn't want them. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, you made several points. One of the points you made was that dating choices is predicted by the music you listen to. Like
No,
I listen to.
I think music has a big impact. Yeah, I've seen it. I've been a man sitting there listening to men talk about women. It's kind of crazy.
Okay, I just want to say, like, I listen to all ratchet music. You know, I love that stuff.
But you didn't grow up in a ratchet environment. Your family was a ratchet.
Well, that was the point I was going to say. It's not just the music that controls what happens. It is your environment and how you grew up. And so I listen to ratchet music. I like all that kind of stuff like everybody else, but that doesn't mean it's gonna change my mind and make me want to date somebody who is, a subject of rap music that I listen to every day. So I don't know if that Alicia might be a ratchet. Well, I listen to ratchet music, but that doesn't mean I'm ratchet.
Well, remember too, though.
Or that I'm going to pick somebody who's ratchet.
Well, remember this too, though. You're in your 40s. You're not a 28-year-old.
Yeah, right? But when I was 28, I listened to
because
AMG and all that.
We also had a slightly different culture back then, right? So back then, like I feel like guys now have a legitimate gripe because a lot of those guys are competing for women who grew up glorifying a thug culture. Maybe because their daddy was locked up, so they think men who are locked up are the kinds of men they want, or their daddy was a dope dealer.
Who wants to date somebody locked up? I mean, how you gonna date somebody who's locked up anyway?
I knew a lady whose father was in prison. He was a kingpin, and he got 100 years in prison. And every boyfriend she ever had was a guy out of jail. Now I'm not saying
out of jail.
I'm not saying right.
You're out of jail.
Or she would date them while they were in jail. Now I'm not trying to say that.
Serve your time.
By the way, I want to make sure it's clear though that we don't want to disrespect men who've been locked up, because there's some people in the chat who've been locked up, and I don't think being locked up means a man's not redeemable. Let's just be clear about that. But I do think that what you saw growing up from your opposite sex parent heavily impacts what you look for. So if you grew up with a missing father, a dope dealer father, a thugged out father, a father who was in and out of jail, a father who was ratchet, then that's what you're going to look for. And I think that a lot of men are kind of confused and frustrated by the fact that there are a lot of women, because they didn't have a father's guidance, they pick the wrong men when they're young. And then after those men dog them out and treat them like crap, they start trying to go back for the men that they passed up in their 20s.
Okay, well, I mean, I think that your dating choices can't be explained by one thing, and I think that's why I'm challenging you a little bit. So, like you mentioned about the rap music, you mentioned about having an absent father. I know a lot of I can come up with a lot of different examples. I think your dating choices has to do with how you feel about yourself. So you date based on your esteem, your
Yeah.
self-worth.
Yeah.
So your partner is an extension of your self-worth. So
I'm
that's
not.
who,
I'm
that's
not. I
what it
mean,
is.
yeah. I mean, you preaching facts with that. I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I agree. Right. So think about this. Where does a girl typically get her self esteem from? It's her
Hmm.
daddy.
Her
Her
dad
dad. Right.
and her
Her
parents and
mother. Her
hers.
mother too. But
Yeah.
the daddy
Yeah. Yeah.
traditionally is the one who says you are beautiful. You are
Hmm.
enough. You are worthy. So if the daddy's not there,
Hmm.
and there's no man validating you, telling you that
There's
you're
not a
pretty.
grandfather or an uncle
Right.
or anybody.
Even a grandfather ain't your daddy.
Yeah, but hold on a
Even
second.
if your dad.
I just want to say, we can't explain human behavior by one factor.
I agree.
So, I think that there are a lot of people who've, for whatever reason, have lost a mother, who have lost a parent. That doesn't mean that they're gonna grow up and be no good.
No,
Okay, I just
no,
want to
I'm
say
not saying no.
it's not determined by that.
No, no, no.
Okay,
We're not measuring.
all right. I
We're
just
not,
want to say
we're not
that.
talking about who's good and who's not.
Well, I just.
This is not about a no good conversation. This is about
Hmm.
having no father to validate you. I believe will open you up to men who give you that false validation in exchange for sex, and I see women fall for it every single day of the week.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that, um, what I'm saying is that yes, having a positive male person reflecting back to you who you are is extremely important.
Mhm.
And what's also important is how you process that experience of having a father there, or if your biological father wasn't there, or even if it was a step parent or someone who adopted you later on. I mean, there's a bunch of different scenarios where you can have, a positive influence in your life coming from the male image, right? And
I do.
so it can't be explained just by one thing, so
Well,
there's a lot of people who grew up and maybe didn't have their biological father there, but perhaps they had a very important uncle or a very important image of a male figure reflecting back to them something really positive, and they grew up and lived a very happy, adjusted life, having processed that experience. So I just don't want to say, I don't want to make a clear cut, predictions, of having an explanation. Because I know women who've had their father living in the house with them. It was a very toxic situation, and they have made dating choices that
well,
weren't ideal.
and we'll
You know
remember
what I
though,
mean?
a toxic situation between a
Yeah.
husband and wife doesn't translate to a toxic situation with all the children. A lot of times,
Well, it's what they see.
right. I'm
I
a big advocate for fathers. I don't care
Yeah,
what.
I am too.
I think that a father who's less than perfect is better than no father at all. I disagree with society that says if he cheated or if he didn't act right to the mother, that means that the kids don't deserve to have the daddy in the house. And I do think that there's no replacement for that. I don't think that a daddy down the street does the same that a daddy does that you have every day. Like, and I guess I said,
we know,
and I'm probably telling on myself because that would be,
we know from the ACEs scale though.
We do know from the
What's
ACEs.
important.
I do agree. I do agree, but I can just tell you, I can just tell you flat out, point blank, period. As flawed as my father was, he was a Vietnam vet that probably said things that were emotionally abusive. He did put his hands on me one time, actually two times, and in 18 years he did that twice. And one time he apologized, the other time he didn't. And but at the same time, you know, if I didn't have my father there, I would have probably been suicidal. I was already suicidal as a teenager. I probably would have killed myself. Because I never would have had anybody there as a male to guide me on any level. And a lot of young black men are just broken and destroyed because they don't have the father there to teach them anything about what it means to be a man. And then a lot of girls, I think, are harmed because they never had a father there to say, I'm going to protect you. I love you. I have your back. And to have that one man that is there every day, just showing you how men operate. Like I think I've just seen some women who are just don't even understand men at all because their only image of a man really is like what their friends told them or what they saw from their mama's boyfriends or whatever. And I feel like that is the kind of stuff that's you see that in relationships. I think a lot of these mistakes that women make with men come from the fact that you never had a father there to kind of help you prepare for dealing with men and just the weirdness that some men will bring to the table?
Well, I think that we cannot. I can't stress enough how important it is for children to grow up in a very loving environment, and that dictates more than anything, that dictates how you feel about yourself, thereby having an influence on who you choose as a mate. And so I don't know exactly what you mean, because I heard you talk about emotionally abusive, and I'd like to hear more about that. But that having an emotionally abusive environment is not ideal for children or anybody. And I think just having a loving home, no matter what the family structure looks like, a loving home is what has the greatest impact on outcomes in general, whether you're a happy person later on in life, or whether you have a lot of anxiety or depression, or even suicidal, like you mentioned. I think that's unfortunate, Boyce.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish, that it hadn't been like that for you, but or anybody to that matter. And so, that explains a lot. I'll say that much. But that's what we know now, is
Mm-hmm.
that loving environment is so important.
Well, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. But I will say this. Billy says everybody dies alone. I think that there are varying. I think there's varying degrees to it. I don't think everybody dies alone, because sometimes you die with people around you. Let me tell you a story. There was a lady I knew who was related to a really famous feminist writer, and I'm not gonna say her name, but she spent all these years talking this pro woman, screw the men kind of stuff, whatever. That this was what she happened to believe. It was very, you know, some would say combative toward men. Let's just say that. And my friend told me, she said, I'm close to her and I love her. I love my aunt, but I don't want her life. I like having my husband. I like having my family, and I'm willing to sacrifice. If that means I got to humble myself and deal with some of the stuff that comes with being with a man who's not always nice to me, I'll deal with that because I like having my husband.
What was that? Not being in a relationship with a man who's not nice to you?
Well, no. It's that's the thing. Nobody's not nice to you 100% of the time or 0% of the time. It's more like people have their own days and off days.
So a total disregard for
no. It means knowing how, like, you're not nice to me every day. I'm not nice to you every day, right? But you look at whether the bad outweighs the good. And so let me finish telling you a story. So she said that her aunt went to the hospital, and she's world famous. Everybody knows who she is. If I said her name, everybody would probably know who she is. And she said, I realized that when I went to the hospital and I needed a ride home, I did not have one single person to come pick me up from the hospital. And that's when my friend told me, she said, that's when I thought about that. And I said, man, this lady's going to die alone. And she did. She died alone. Mm-hmm. And I think that the general idea, this die alone concept, is interesting to me, because this can happen to women. It can happen to men. I believe it can happen to anybody who doesn't at least try to pour into some sort of stable, long-term relationship with some other individual or group of people, to make sure that that you have some people to have your back when you get older and vulnerable.
Yeah, well, I want to say that if you're ever mean to your partner, or if you're ever disrespectful to your partner and they bring it to your attention, you're supposed to apologize for it. And because the intention is not to be mean. Like, I've never intended to be mean to you, or it's never ever been my purpose to I'm just going to be mean to you. But if I ever am, and when I am, I stop immediately. And all of us need to do that. You got to stop immediately and be like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I mean, that's the biggest thing you can do, is apologize and say, you know what, hold me accountable to that, because it should never be tolerated and accepted to be mean and disrespectful to anybody. No one, not a human, not a sentient soul on this earth deserves that.
I think
that should be made clear.
I think that works well in theory. And
why can't it be well in practice?
Because I think that in the real world, you have to deal with the fact that human beings are not perfect, robotic automatons.
Wait, that are how is that different from what I just said?
No. Because the thing is, sometimes somebody that you care about is going to say some stuff that really feels disrespectful, and sometimes you have to just let it slide.
Really? So that
And
who
they may
told
not.
you that?
No,
Who
no, no.
told you to do
Because
that?
I've seen it. It's real life. It's doing business with people. It's all the stuff that I've dealt with.
Why would you let
I
things slide like that?
Because sometimes you confront it. Sometimes you have to say, okay, they're having a bad day. It's part of the four agreements. When one of the four agreements is don't take things personally. And the reality is that as much as you might feel like they owe you an apology, sometimes some people don't have enough introspection to even know that they owe you an apology. You might say, hey, you were mean to me that day. You owe me an apology. You know what they're going to do 9 times out of 10? They're going to say, well, the reason I was mean, they're either going to say, I wasn't mean to you. What are you talking about? Or they're going to say, I was mean to you because you did this to me.
That's not
And
very
then
nice.
it's not very nice, but it happens all that. It happens in relationships.
Yeah, but the thing
I've
is
seen,
that
but
you
I've seen.
should, if you're dating somebody and they're mean to you and you bring it to their attention and they're just like, bah, and they do that, like that's a very toxic situation.
It's
That's
to-
not okay.
it's toxic, and I agree.
It's
It's
not okay
sure.
in
I mean, it would be
anything.
wonderful if every time somebody says something mean to us, they apologize. But typically, mean people have an excuse for why they were mean. When women get toxic and women start bitching and yelling and screaming at you, and women do that. We act like women are always the victim. Y'all know what it is. Women are not always the victim in these relationships.
Who acts
Some
like women are always the
some
victim?
women, no, no,
No
no.
one acts like
I'm talking
that.
about when they get into politics and society. Like if a woman goes and
Oh,
she says, "Oh, he was emotionally abusive." Everybody just believes her. They don't even ask like, "Why? What are you talking about? What do you mean?" Like she doesn't have to explain things. She just says he's emotionally abusive. Then he gets labeled as an abuser. But my point is like, a lot of times if you say, hey, what you said to me was not appropriate, you owe me an apology. Sometimes people aren't ready to do it. They're not going to see it, and they're going to give an excuse. Like, so if I know I'm dealing with somebody that isn't introspective, and I know they owe me an apology, I'll either draw the line and say, if you talk to me like that again, I'm never going to talk to you again, which means I'm risking the relationship, or I'll just let it slide and say, you know what, they're having a bad day. I'm going to just let them have this one. And I think that's okay. I think that I've learned that forgiveness is a great power to have when you're dealing with a world full of flawed Negroes who are traumatized and dysfunctional. Black people have dealt with so much, and a Negro will go crazy on your ass in a minute. And so if you don't know
so
how to,
that's how you see the world. Do you see the world as
I
black people, just a group of black people being traumatized, going around saying and doing anything you want to, and that is your position to just say that's just how they are and let that go?
know
Like,
what I do. You know what
I'm
I
trying
do?
to get from
No, you
you.
know what I do? I keep perfect score of how everybody treats me, including you. Every single person in my life, I keep score of how they treat me. And I keep that score so that I know what situations to avoid and who I need to forgive. Because I know that some people are not going to change, even if you beg them to do it. So you just monitor, you take notes, and so maybe you might come back and say, look, hey, if you talk to me like that again, I had a friend like that, a very famous friend that I worked with a lot, and one day he just went off on me and went ballistic, and I said, hey, I'll let you get all that out, but if you talk to me like that again,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be the last time we talk. Well, he did it again one more time, and I never spoke to him again. I didn't announce it. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't do it. I just didn't return any more of his calls because I said I don't want to have a childish relationship, and it's happened quite a few times. That's why.
So you've had that happen to you quite a few times where people have been
Yeah,
disrespectful like
yeah,
that?
because you have mentally dysfunctional people in the world. Like just because you're doing the work to heal doesn't mean people around you are doing that. So what I've
Mm-hmm.
committed to doing is I want people around me who are trying to do the work to get better. If you're not in that category, like there's one lady that went on Tasha K's show that was screaming and hollering about me and claiming that I was mean to her and all that. And I'm not even gonna say her name. Some of y'all might know who I'm talking about. But literally, and I don't even discuss it publicly, but literally, what happened was I saw her behaving in a very dysfunctional way, screaming and hollering and being disrespectful to people that I cared about. And at that moment, I said, I'm done. I'm done. And when I say I'm done, oh, that means I'm done. That means sorry, Nara, you don't exist in my world anymore. So you could scream and holler and be mad about it, but I'm protecting my peace.
Okay,
And I
so
think and that strategy's worked quite well for me actually.
okay, I'm just trying to get into your head and try to figure out your world a little better. As long as we've known each other, I'm still trying to see. So you see the world this way. I'm just curious about that. That's just
Yeah,
how you see the world.
you have to.
You see the world.
You have to find the process. In my view, you got to find the process that works for you.
Okay.
The reason that
because in your world you run into a lot of crazy people and you have to be able to give
Yeah.
them a number in your head. Wait, explain that a little more. You give them a rating.
In my world, I do business with lots and lots and lots and lots of people.
Okay.
Like I literally have 1.2 million followers on YouTube alone.
But you don't do business with those
I don't
people.
do business with
Okay.
all of them, but I deal with a lot of people on some level. I shake 10,000 hands a year. I sign 5,000, 10,000 autographs a year. I have probably 1,000 business conversations per year. I have lots of people that want to work with me, work for me. I go through all of that. And to do that, you have to be able to have discernment.
Okay,
That's it.
so your discernment. Okay. All right. I'm just trying to figure out where your world.
It's a survival skill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for you to survive, you have to have discernment and you have to be able to read people and be able to figure out how to navigate through this world of these crazy people.
Well, it's not a world full of crazy people. There's a lot of really good
traumatized black people.
No. Let me explain. There's a lot of really good people out here. There's some absolute sweetheart human beings and quality, it's solid men that I've worked with, and I keep tabs. I told you I keep tabs on all that. So, for example, if you said, well, who are the solid men? You talked about the toxic men. Who are the solid men? I'd say, Andre Hatchett. Been knowing Andre Hatchett for years. Solid guy, very consistent. Julian Gordon. I've worked with Julian Gordon for years. Jay Morrison has been very solid. Who's a Dr. Claude Anderson. Very solid, very consistent. Dr. George C. Frazier, Kenny Gamble. I could keep going down. Like I could keep going down the list. Ryan McCrary out of Philadelphia. So there are men that I can connect to. D1. I just keep going down the list. Immortal Technique, the rapper. I love him. He's one of my favorite rappers. One of my favorite human beings. So solid people like that. Those are the ones I get closer to. Those are the ones I embrace. Those are the ones I want to work with and hang out with. Al Duncan. People like that. When I see people who are not solid, I don't.
Who shall remain nameless, right?
Who shall remain nameless?
Okay.
Exactly. I'm not gonna get no cuss and screaming match with you. I'm not gonna let your dysfunction make me a dysfunctional person. Like, okay, if you want to act like, a prison inmate, I'm not gonna act like one with you, because I know that if I gotta start acting like an inmate to survive and start engaging in prison behavior, I'm becoming less of myself. I'm becoming the person that even I don't want to be. I don't want to see that person, So rather than allowing your energy to bring me down to that frequency, I just level up. That's what you got to do. You got to level up.
I like the level up conversation.
You walk away
like
from it. Yeah, you walk away and forgive. And there's something too. There's a lot of injustice in the world. People gonna do you wrong. You have relationships. Things go bad. It always bothers me when people have a bad relationship, whether it's dating or business, and they get real toxic and like they have a vendetta. Like they spend the next 3 years running around campaigning to tell everybody what a terrible person somebody is. He did me wrong. We were in a relationship and he mistreated me. And I'm kind of like, you probably need therapy and Jesus right now. You need something that's going to help you heal, because you look like a big ball of poison running through the world, complaining about what somebody did to you. Get over it. Shit. Everybody gets fucked over every now and then. I've been, you've seen,
I do know.
I have been screwed in business. I have been,
yes, you have.
I've had things happen that were so unfair. And maybe because of my experience, I can deal with it a little bit better than most. But, and also,
I think it's always good. I mean, when it happens, you do in that relationship with them.
Yeah, but
just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, you ain't got to be a sucker and keep on letting yourself get screwed. But
and then you don't have to. On the other hand, you don't have to like go live on YouTube and exposing people and all of that.
Right, like all of that stuff is a very weak, immature mindset.
The truth is the truth. It don't need to be defended. It all comes out.
Right. Yeah. Just keep on marching, keep on moving, and I think, and so that's how I deal with the world that's full of all different kinds of people. So I'm not saying that the whole world is full of toxic people.
Well, you just mentioned black people are traumatized.
I would say, I think I think the trauma that we experience makes things a little more interesting in our community?
Okay, so I mean, I think I know you're using the word trauma a lot, and I think it's really good. But the same thing is that trauma is not just bad things that happen to you. Like all of us have bad things that happen to us. That doesn't mean that we're traumatized by it.
Mm-hmm.
So the trauma comes when you're not able to reflect on it, whatever avenue you have. Like all of us need to come up with our own avenues of reflecting on things that's happened to us that's less than ideal, and making sure that we start to become aware of how we feel about it, what our body tells us about it, what we think about it, how we behave. So I mean, I think that's important, to just have a person or some method of processing unfortunate things that happen to us. Now trauma means you haven't processed any of that, and it stays in you, and it's a hang up, it's a trigger. It's every time it's mentioned, you kind of go ballistic, or you go off, and when things like that happen, when you say one word to somebody and then all of a sudden they just snap, that lets you know that they have some unresolved unfortunate situations in their life.
Oh, okay, I can see that.
Yeah. So I just wanted to like make that distinction between terrible things happening to you and something being traumatic.
Okay, that makes sense. By the way, you're listening to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. She is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. She also sees clients and does all kinds of stuff to help you deal with trauma and all the things that you're working through in your life. If you would like to meet with her directly, feel free to go to coachingwithdralicia.com. That's right there. And also, we're really big on things like mindset when it comes to wealth and everything else in between. And we are hosting a Black Wealth Summit. And so if you'd like to join us at the next Black Wealth Summit, just go to boycewatkins.com. We're going to be at the Essence Music Fest, and or right next door to the Essence Music Fest in the Westin Hotel in New Orleans, July 1st to the 3rd. So you can go to the Essence and also come to the Black Wealth Summit and learn about real estate. You can learn about entrepreneurship. You can learn about stock market investing. You can learn about money mindset. We're bringing in all the experts, pulling out all the big guns to make sure that you're prepared for the changing economy, possible recession, and all the other things that may go down. So anyway, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, share, subscribe. So let's go back to this topic here. So we're talking about this thing with dying alone. And I think that my general point here would be that, I think that if I talk specifically about men and mentorship for men, I would just encourage every man to think strategically. I think that if you get too caught up in a bandwagon, and this is my challenge for the manosphere, is there's like a bandwagon of sort of doing what some of the more extreme toxic feminists have done, which is to blame all your problems on a Black woman. I'd really kind of feel like, if you're smart and first of all, if you really want to be a man, where I come from, if you're a man, just be a man. You know, I can't. It doesn't make me more of a man to sit and just complain about women and say, oh well, look at her. Her standards are too high, and how dare she say she wouldn't date a garbage man, and what's wrong? So what? So what? If her standards are too high, then find a woman where you can meet the standard, and or find a woman whose standards aren't as high, or just move on. Pray for her, wish her the best, and move on. Why is there this whole energy of like, it doesn't come off to me as masculine energy. It comes off like kind of catty, kind of bitchy. It's not boss energy. Like a boss kind of operates and just makes things happen. A boss doesn't spend their time complaining about what they can't have and people that have more than they have, or whatever. So I kind of feel like, if you're a guy, I would encourage you to go into all of this with a critical mindset, critical eye. If you are really a true quality human being, somebody's going to see that. A good woman's going to see that. A gold digger might not see the value in you. When I was younger and I didn't have any money, the gold diggers were not interested in dating me. But I didn't want to date the gold digger. So why do I care that you don't want to be with me because I don't have enough money? Or maybe you only date men above 6 feet tall. That's not my type of woman anyway. I'm an intelligent Black man. I don't want I would never want to be with a woman who judges men on one criteria anyway. So that's my thought there. In terms of encouraging men to just, do what's best for your own life. What are your thoughts, babe?
Well, my thought is that I don't think anybody wants to die alone. I
Hmm.
mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, I think that a lot of men die in fear
Mm.
instead of, and that's what's holding them back. I don't think that, I think they really want to love somebody. Even Kevin Samuels wanted to be loved by somebody. We know that. I think that you just have to figure out what you want in a person and become those things, and they'll come to you. I don't think it's very difficult dating. I know we talked about um, there's a shortage. We talked about that article about there being a shortage of men. How many people live in this world? What is it, like 7 billion people in this world? I
Hmm.
mean, I think that there is an abundance, and I think that's part of the mindset. I think that we have to start thinking about an abundance. I never thought once I changed my mind on outlook on men. This is my own personal story. I thought there was a limit. I thought there wasn't not enough men going around, and that was what was shown to me. But once I said, there's plenty of men out here for me. Like once I changed my mind about that, there were plenty of men for me. Like they were showing up. I wasn't even chasing them. They were showing up. And so let that be a sort of a testament. And I think for men and women, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about the opposite sex? We're talking about heterosexual people. What's the first thing? So when you think about a man, you think about a black man, what's the first words that come to your mind? Is it positive words, or is it words of someone who can be trusted or someone who can never be trusted? So pay attention to what you think when it comes to the opposite sex
Well, you
when
know
you're
what?
trying to date somebody.
Well, you know
Mm-hmm.
what's interesting to me? I think the reason conversation about high value man, high value woman didn't work so well for me is because it's almost like the conversations would take place as if there was some universal scale that everybody was measured on, and everybody measured everyone else on the exact same scale. So if I look at a woman and another man looks at a woman, if I see a 7, he sees a 7 too, and every man on earth is going to see a 7. And that ain't the way dating works. Where one man sees a 7, another man might see a 2, and another man
Yeah.
might see a 10. Like I, most of the time, if you tap in and figure out where your strengths are and what your superpower is, there's a good chance you are a 10 on somebody's scale. You might be 1,000 pounds, right? Whatever, you know what I mean? Like
There's
you
a whole lot of
what
men that like
there
really
are
thick
men that
women.
like the big women. That so
Mhm.
so so a guy can't look at a big woman and say, "Oh, don't nobody want you. Look how big you are." Well, some men might be like, if she lost weight, she would be less attractive to me,
Yeah.
right? Or if you
Ooh, or that
what?
I won't even mention. There was somebody who was saying, honey, you can get a man if you gain 10 pounds. That was one of the most
Okay,
ridiculous things I
right
ever
now
heard.
that part I do think that was, and I do agree that does fit the narrow-minded category, right? For sure, right? Because that would say if you're a thin woman,
What is
then
that?
the men who are going to be most likely to be physically attracted to you are the men who like thin women, right? So I do agree that there is a danger to getting people to reject who they are and tell them you have to be somebody else to get what you want, right? I do agree with that. Now, what I do think though is that if you live in the real world, there is some value to knowing, okay, where are my opportunity zones? Like what zones do I? So, for example, if you told me, Boyce, you know what, you're a little bit of a nerd. You read too many books. You need to be a thug. You need to get you a gun and be a gangster and be like 50 Cent. And then you'll get more women because you'll be able to be a gangster. Well, I would look stupid trying to imitate a thug gangster type mindset. I know thugs and gangsters, but I don't need to be one. That's not my story, right? That's that's bad advice because you're telling me to become something I'm not, right? But if you did say to me, you said, "Hey, Boyce, you're pretty smart. That's your strength. You work on that. Like show that. Like lead with your brain. or you're good with financial stuff. Like, talk about that.
But you're
Like,
more than just your
you're
brain.
more than that. You're more than that. But
Uh-huh.
let's just be clear though. There is that initial attraction piece that is important, and I think that Kevin Samuels, as an image consultant, that's one area where he did understand pretty well. I think was how to look like a good catch to the person you're trying to attract on average, right? So, for example, he would give you advice like, if you're a man, if you come up there stinking, if your breath is stinking and you ain't got no cologne on, you're not going to be as appealing as a man who has fresh breath and is wearing cologne. Most women would agree with that. Sure,
Okay. So
sure.
I just want to say that's water is wet analysis
No, no, no,
here.
no, no. It's water is wet, but to
It's
understand.
like,
No, no,
okay,
no, no,
of
no, no, no,
course,
no,
brush
no,
your
no, no,
teeth.
no, 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 no. Remember, babe.
Hold on, brush your teeth and put
No, no,
deodorant
no,
on.
babe. No, 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 no. But remember this. Remember this. You're talking about a guy who was giving advice. He was giving advice to a lot of young men who did not have a father. So some of these guys really didn't know stuff like the basic stuff. And I did remember hearing Kevin say that. Kevin said, these are things that my father taught me that a lot of these young boys don't know. And that's because a lot of them don't have a dad. So when him telling you something as simple as brush your teeth when you talk to a girl, or here's the type of cologne, not only do you wear cologne, but here's the type of cologne that you should wear that will make women, that'll get women going. That's good advice.
I don't like that.
You may not like it, but that's fine. That's like, but remember, some things men are going to appreciate more than women. It's just like if you
That
tell,
is not,
it's no. It's just.
I mean, being presentable and dressing appropriately. I mean, that goes. You should just do that anyway. It's a reflection of you. So I mean, you should just do it anyway, not for the sole purpose of finding somebody. I just feel like let the clothes on your back. Let the clothes on your back. Like, you wear a lot of shirts with a lot of words on it, with sayings and stuff on it. And I think that's adorable because that's just what you've always done. Like, when you were 22, when I met you, you were 22, you wore shirts with sayings on it.
Yeah,
and you do now. Like, I think it's really cute.
And I appreciate that. But remember, when I was 22, there were women that I wanted that, including I liked you, but there were also
you
women.
never liked me.
Yes,
I did not feel like you liked me.
I was intimidated.
You never told me.
No. I was intimidated by you. I told you.
Okay,
that.
everybody.
But here's the thing.
I just want to say. We talked on the phone.
I did, right. But that's fine. I don't want to get into that too much.
And you had a girlfriend. You told me you had a girlfriend.
But I didn't like her that much. She was a girl I wanted to just hang out with. It wasn't a girl I really wanted to.
Okay, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, Boyce has a girlfriend. He's not interested in me, and we're just friends.
Right. Well, yeah. Well,
you never made a move on me.
I mean, I didn't. I admit I didn't. I did not. I'm not gonna lie. At 22, and this is where I could have used Kevin Samuels type advice.
Oh my God.
I swear to God, I kid you not. See, people think that I don't like Kevin, and I'm not in that category. I don't like the harshness. I feel like he didn't have to tell people they were going to die alone. I did not like that. That to me it's not necessary, dude.
It didn't matter. No.
Like you could be a man without telling women they're going to die alone if they don't listen to you. Like you could be a full man without feeling like, oh, I got to put these bitches in their place. Like what the hell, man? Like, you ain't got to do all that. How about you just say, as a man, this is my preference. As a man, this is my belief. As a man, this is what I do. And then let people do what they're going to do.
Okay. Can I say something? Go ahead. I know you're not going to like what I'm going to say.
Go ahead.
I know you're not going to like what I'm going to say, but I hope that you let me say it.
Go ahead.
When me and you started dating, did you not have a hole in your coat?
I did.
You did.
But I like that coat.
You did like that Ohio State coat.
Yes, I did.
It had a hole in it.
Yes, I did.
Okay. So, your phone, something happened with your phone. Did you drop it or something? Something happened and you dropped it and it had, like, the screen was cracked. You hadn't had a chance to get it fixed. You did get it fixed.
Right.
But I just want to say, I dated you with a t-shirt on. I had no idea. First of all, I wasn't even friends with you on social media. So you were just my buddy. You were my buddy back in school who I loved dearly. You were my favorite friend. And I loved hanging out with you because you were just such a cool person to hang out with. I had no idea that you had an online presence that you had right now. All I know is that this is my smart little friend who used to be on CNN, who is adorable and cute and has a hole in his coat. And
right.
his
Okay.
cell phone is cracked.
What is your point, ma'am?
So what point, you tell me, what point am I making?
I don't know, but by the time I met you, no, man, you need to come back. By the time you and I started dating, I was a millionaire known around the
Yeah,
world.
but
So
I had
so
no
let's just
idea.
because you didn't know these things, but
I just
no,
saying.
you didn't know these things, but the 3 or 4 women trying to date me, they all knew these
I
things.
don't know those women.
Right, you did not know those women. I'm not saying that you're like every woman. Remember, you had your preference. I understand you. You are a woman who doesn't care how much money a man makes or things like that. I get that. I'm telling you that not every woman thinks the way you do. And so what I'm saying to you is
But I think there's a
that
lot
the
of women
energy,
out there
right? They're
that likes men
I
because they're
think that
cute.
there are absolutely, but just understand, I'm not talking. We're not talking about the exceptions. We're talking about the averages, the norms. So typically, women don't like men whose breasts stink. Women do like men who dress nicer. Women do like men to carry themselves. So some of Kevin's advice was good. Now I'm going to respond to some of the interesting comments. Mojo says pretty good. Just listen to Boyce talk negative on the dead. Yeah, he never called into Kevin Samuel's smoke show. No, I never called into Kevin's show. I did invite him on my platform, but he declined. However, Kevin did an entire show about me. Did several shows about me, so I was on Kevin's show. I just was never actually a guest on it. So that's kind of silly. You try to gain clout off a dead dude who can't respond. Nah, we're not trying to gain clout. I have plenty of clout already, probably more than you do. Cora says, Dr. Alicia, he's right. Some young men don't have anyone to teach them. Yeah, so you need to listen to Cora. She knows what she's talking about. Let's see here. Somebody said something about a fanny pack. I don't know why they're talking about.
Yes, he did have a fanny pack.
Yes, and you know what?
That's and you know what? And
what you got to understand is that no. But what I'm explaining to you is, I get that, right? Like the thing is, just because I did not adopt every single piece of advice that a Kevin Samuels would give, that doesn't mean I don't think that would work for some people. Some guys I knew what my strengths were. That's when I came into my own when it came to women. When I came to my own, when I knew what my strength was. My strength was not, I'm not the jock. I'm not the thug. I'm not the pretty boy. I'm not the smooth guy. You know what I am? I'm the smart guy. I was the rich guy. I was the powerful man. I was the man who was very confident in terms of who he was and very driven. I'm the man who loves children. I love children and family. I love every day I campaign to be dad of the year. Right. And I don't give a shit about men who think that it's simping to be a bonus dad, because I think it's the greatest thrill of my life. I love it. I feel sorry for guys who don't know what they're missing. I don't know what happened with them. Maybe they didn't have a man that spent time with them when they were children. Probably so they don't feel like that. Yeah, most of them have single moms, which is kind of weird. Like that you had a single mom and you refused to date a single mother. Like that means you probably need a therapist, dude. But seriously, at the end of the day, what I would say to anybody, this is my point. Any man, any woman, whoever, if you're trying to compete in a dating market, a labor market, or any market, because I'm an economist, we understand markets. The key idea is to figure out what your strengths are. What are your strengths? And don't try to make somebody else's strengths into your strength. God gave the gift to you. That is your gift. That is not a gift that you need to walk away from just so you can try to get somebody else's gift. Like if you're the girl who attracts men because you have a nice shape, don't try to become the skinny girl, because then you're going to kill your strength trying to imitate somebody else, and you'll never be as good at imitating other people as you are being yourself. So the people I feel sorry for are the people that don't have the confidence to know what their strengths are and haven't had the determination to develop those strengths. Like I always knew, I never tried to compete to be the jock or the thug. I knew I would lose that competition because I'm not a jock and I'm not a thug. I'm a mediocre athlete, and I mean I'm a gangster. I'm gangster as a scholar and as a black man in my own way, but I'm not street gangster. I'm not trying to go to jail and be out here killing people. So, but what I did though is I said, you know what? I noticed that there are women out here who like smart guys. So guess what? My way of appealing to women, honestly, when I was young and dating or whatever, was like, oh, I'm gonna let you know I'm an intelligent black man and proud of that shit. And guess what? You know what happened? A lot of great women were interested in me, exactly like you, because I leaned into my strength.
Yeah, but it had nothing to do with what you were wearing. I think that
no, that's because of you. That right, because I wasn't right. But so we're agreeing.
So we're saying,
agreeing.
But that was your point. Your right. point was what clothes you have on. It, just be yourself. Just be like you being Boyce is what I loved. Just you being you.
Well, you know,
Maybe I don't know.
I
Maybe
think
if you
I think you being yourself is good, but I also think that being yourself without an awareness of how you being yourself affects other people
well,
is not
awareness
healthy.
is always important.
Right. So I think that
Mhm.
if I say, well, I'm just being myself, so I'm gonna walk around with stinky breath and dress like a bum, that's fine. I have a right to do that. But I then can't turn around and be mad because the woman I want isn't interested in me because I didn't even, take the time to dress in a nice
Mhm.
enough way that's gonna, don't get me wrong, I can find another
So
woman who doesn't
so
care about that.
my thing, I think the nuance in our discussion here is that um don't brush your teeth just to find a mate. Don't say I'm gonna put deodorant on just so I can give me a man today. Just just be you. Just if that's what you do, that's your regular routine. You brush your teeth, put deodorant on, and you just do it because that's what you do. You know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah,
I'm not trying to, I'm just being, I wear clothes every single day just based on how I feel that day. I'm not trying to, like, when we started dating, I wasn't putting clothes on thinking I'm gonna get me some Boyce.
right.
I was just
But
being
you did
Alicia.
want to look beautiful. You did want to look appealing. You may not have been trying to look appealing to attract a man, but most women want to look
But I
beautiful.
like to
Most women want to
look.
smell good. Most women want to be attractive, right? So I maybe you're not doing it so much for other people, and I do agree with that to a point for sure. But I think that and maybe this is a difference. I think this is a difference that
Uh-huh.
that people, if you talk about the broken women who did appear on Kevin's show, one awareness that I think some of them did not have yet is that you can't just always be yourself and then always get what you want. Like there's a trade.
So wait.
Because sometimes what they would do is I've heard people say, giving people terrible dating advice, and they would say, just be yourself. If a man can't accept you exactly as you are, and with you being exactly how you want to be, then he's not man enough, and blah 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 blah. I think that's bullshit. I think that a relationship requires you to have a sense of awareness of how your actions and behaviors, appearance, everything affects other people. It doesn't mean you fold everything. It doesn't mean you become a complete, wimp, but it does mean that you can't always do what you want to do and be in a healthy relationship. I can't do what I always did. Let's just be clear. As a married man, I can't do everything I might have wanted to do if I was still single.
That's right. You sure can.
Right,
You can say
exactly.
that again.
Exactly. And I have to accept that. Right. So when I would hear, so when I would see somebody, let's give an example. Here's a real extreme example. Imagine a woman who's loud and doesn't care about her appearance. Really let herself go. Won't even eat a vegetable or do a jumping jack. You know, and 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 is rude to everybody. You know, and whatever, and then is like upset because good men won't stick around. I
Well,
think it's okay. Hold
she'll
on.
find somebody else
She
who's rude.
might hold on. But let's say she hasn't found that person. Let's say she does not. Let's say she comes on Kevin's show and she's loud. She's Big Shirley. She's loud. She ain't looking her best. She has nothing to offer a man, and also, or better yet, she doesn't see it anyway. And she also is confused about why men won't stick around. She's like, I need your advice. And then Kevin says, okay, you could lose some weight. You
Oh,
could be a little less
no,
loud.
no,
I
no.
don't know. Hold on, listen. I think that's okay to give advice to people who ask for it. So like the reason I don't feel so bad for the women that went on Kevin's show is because they did ask for his advice. But at the same time, I think that Kevin was a little too harsh in terms of how he delivered that advice. And I think that's the part that people have an issue with.
I think that there's plenty of men who would look at a full-figured woman who's loud in public
Right.
and be attracted to
I
that.
agree 100%. But let's assume the reason she's on the show is because she has not found that man. So
Okay.
it's like if somebody with a GED says, I want to work 4 hours a week and make $500,000 a year. And I'm really upset because no one will hire me and pay me $500,000 a year to work 4 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, what should I do? Well, some people would say, well, you know what? Just keep waiting and keep praying to Jesus. And one day a job will come along that pays you $500,000 a year
Yeah, but
to
that's
work.
not.
Listen, hold on, wait, you're not letting me finish.
All right, keep going, boys.
That will pay you $500,000 a year to let you work 4 hours a week. That's a possibility. It could happen. But then somebody more realistic would say, are you sure you want my advice from my perspective? And they say, yeah. They would say, okay, either you're going to have to work more hours or you're going to have to lower your salary expectations or both. Now, if you work 40 hours a week, you might be able to make 50 grand a year. And they say, no, 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 I won't work for 50,000. Well, then you're going to be unemployed. That's, to me, that's the gist of the Kevin Samuels approach. It's like, okay, you want advice from his perspective. You're not getting what you want. That's why you're here. If you were getting what you wanted, you wouldn't be here. You'd be off with your lover. But you're not with your lover. You're here looking for advice from me because you're not getting what you want, which clearly means you're not in alignment with the market. So if you want my advice, I'm going to give it to you. And so I think that that's okay. I would probably, I mean, as much as you might want to have a conversation with Kevin about how he gave his advice, I'd have an even deeper conversation with the people to say, what led you to come here in the first place? Did you want his harsh truth? Were you expecting something different? Why is your life not giving you what you want? Clearly, your strategy is not working.
Yeah. So, from the helping perspective, when we talk about helping others, one of the ways to help other people is to try to figure out how they came to that conclusion. So I would, my approach would be, if someone's saying I can't get a man, what's going on, and I can't get a man, I would ask them questions about why is it important to get that kind of man. So why is it important? I think if someone were to come to me and say, I want a 6-figure man, I would ask them, what is so important about the actual 6 figures that would make everything so complete for you? So I would have more of a conversation about what is it about that. I would question and have more of a dialogue about what is it about that particular person that has to have that particular number for you that's meaningful for you. That's how I would approach it. I would dig into that. So what is it? Is it security that you're really looking for? Is it, someone who could take you out on elaborate dates? Why is expensive dates important to you? So I would kind of question, like, how is it that they came to those conclusions, and just have a conversation around that, more so than telling you, oh, you need to wear red lipstick. If you need to you need to wear red lipstick on the full moon in order to find a man at 3 p.m. or whatever. Like, it just doesn't fly with me. It's
well, Darren says that that's what Kevin did, actually. And I think that that's one of the areas where
I did listen to some of his stuff. I've never heard him say that. So
I think
I'm not saying that he didn't say that, but I'm just saying I never heard that.
And I think also, it's important to acknowledge that, when you're in the shock jock type business, Kevin, being as smart as he was, he leaned into some of the, the backlash. Like, he would lean into die alone. Like, he'd have videos where you put the word die alone deliberately in the title, or modern women. And if you look at the last 10 videos, like, anybody who says that he talked about men and women, he didn't talk about them equally at all. Because if you look at the last 10 videos, you can go to his channel right now and look at the last 10 videos he did. Those last 10 videos, I think like 8 or 9 of them were about women. The titles were about women. And I think that's the part that, that where I didn't quite feel good about this idea. We talk about dying alone, for example, you can have that conversation with anybody. It doesn't have to be gender specific, and what I have noticed as well is that as much as people will say, well, it's good, you got to hold these women accountable. These women are their standards. You got to hold them accountable. I hear that, but you don't like it when people hold you accountable. When you hold men accountable, some of these men get real bitchy real fast. Some of them are in the chat. Some of them are in here, like,
I know they are.
Boyce, you simping, Boyce, you simping. Well, I mean, you're the one sitting around complaining about women all day. That sounds like a simp to me. That's pretty simping. Like, it's oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was saying, if your life is sitting around complaining about, if you're a heterosexual person and your life is, you're just sitting around talking about the opposite sex in a very pejorative, very negative way, it's not going to work for you that way. I mean, you really have to have positive thoughts about relationships, positive thoughts about the opposite sex in order to um, experience that.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I just think in general, on the internet, we just basically have those two extremes.
Mm-hmm.
You got those women, like that one lady at Rutgers, who she compared black men to. She's a Rutgers professor. She
Uh-huh.
compared black men to the Buffalo shooter, and basically was saying like straight black men are like a threat, and like,
Yeah. So
so you got those
when you
extreme,
make categorical statements about
right?
people, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, and then you
Um,
got men that will say weird, really weird things, like they will campaign to say you shouldn't date a single mother. Like, and I just think that's weird. Like, if you don't want to date a single mother, then don't date a single mother. That's fine. That's on you. But it's weird when you're going out of your way to like isolate single mothers because one, they didn't become single by themselves. If you're going to isolate single mothers, why don't you isolate single fathers too? Talk to the. I mean, and that's the other thing too. So you'll have a man who created two or three single mamas. He got two or three babies mamas, and was raised by a single mother, who will say you should never date single mothers. Well, that to me is the biggest punk that there ever was in terms of, like, you really have the world your brain screwed on backward because you can't see none of your own bullshit. You see no role that you have played in the creation of the problem that you're bitching about. That to me is a punk. That is absolutely weird. That's
it's a double
crazy.
standard
It's
for
as
sure.
dumb as what the Democrats and Republicans do. It's as dumb as when like the I saw a Democrat call a Republican a baby killer because he won't do gun control after that school shooting. But then you would hear a Republican call a Democrat a baby killer because of abortion. And it's kind of like, okay, either none of y'all are baby killers or all of y'all are baby killers or somewhere in between. I don't know. But all of it, it's like the weird hypocrisy,
Mm-hmm.
or the Democrats who will say the Republicans, they like to riot, and they came in and rioted at the Capitol. But then the Republicans will turn around and point out the fact that most of those riots in the summer of 2020 were led by Democrats. So the Democrats and the Republicans all sound stupid. They just sound
Mm-hmm.
crazy. So a lot of these extremists, men and women, I encourage anybody that's got some sense, anybody that's really pro-black, that understands that we're all in this all together. Understand you can't be pro-black and anti-black woman. You can't sit and talk shit about black women all day and then call yourself pro-black, because the woman is the reason you exist. The woman is the fruit of your whole reality. And then also, women have to understand you can't be pro-black when you're not trying to, in some way, find some way to be supportive of black men. If a individual black man causes you a problem, I get that. If you have a problem with segments of black men, I understand that too. But my Lord Jesus, when like this lady was saying all black men are a threat, I said, okay, I get it. Maybe you're just gay and you see no use for men at all. So the same thing will be true for these men. Like these men that really hate the women and are competitive with the women, you're acting kind of gay, dude. Like stop that. Like just be a man. Do your thing. Do what you're gonna do. Make your own choices. But sitting around complaining, whining about women all day, that's about as anti-masculine as anything I've ever seen.
Well, wait a minute. Are you saying whining and complaining is a female thing?
No, I'm not saying
All
it's
right, I
a
just
female
want to
thing.
just
I'm saying it's
just
a
make that
bitchy
out.
thing. How about that?
Okay.
A bitchy thing.
Yeah. So it
Maybe
can.
not a female thing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
there we go.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, Boyce. I mean, being pro-black, you can't be pro-black if you're going to sit there and complain and categorize a whole entire group of people like that. So I absolutely agree with you on that one. But
Yeah.
I just want to make it clear when you say be a man, I'm just wondering what you mean by that.
I agree. I was raised by an
Uh-huh.
old school Southern black man, and we had a clear line between masculinity and femininity. My father was very clear about what a man does and does not do. And one thing that is that I was raised
I
on
mean, you
with.
can revise that to fit
You can revise it.
yourself,
You can. I do, and I do
Uh-huh.
revise some. I mean, some of the stuff some of the types of masculinity that was required for my father to survive was not necessarily beneficial in my world. So he went to Vietnam. He had to be a killer to survive.
Mm-hmm.
That had to become a version of his masculinity. He's on the police department. Same thing. I'm not a cop. I'm not a soldier. I respect soldiers though, and I respect good cops, but I'm neither one of them. So my masculinity that's required for me to succeed in my world is different from his. But we learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of my mental toughness from my father. I'm not afraid, of bullies because of my dad. My dad taught me about
So
the
you
fact
see
that
the world, you see part of the world as bullying.
I see the world as full of people, especially the internet, full of
Mm-hmm.
full of people that you just deal with. When you're dealing with a lot of people, you got trolls that will just say things to try to rattle people, whatever. And I just think
Mm-hmm.
you just gotta say like fuck you, like I don't care, like keep talking, I don't care, and it's just kind of one of those things where I was raised to just believe that as a man, when you want to be successful, you gotta just keep moving forward. You can't get too distracted. You can't get caught up in cat fights. Um, you just do what you gotta do. You know.
Mm-hmm. So, masculine could also mean protector.
Mm,
Someone who protects the home.
hmm.
That could be part of masculine.
Absolutely.
Um, Masculine is also, you can show emotion as a man.
Absolutely. Well, I
I
think
do.
so. I think if it's shown in an appropriate way, I think it makes sense for sure.
Uh-huh. I mean, you're definitely, men are very emotional people too. They have
Yeah.
feelings just like everyone else. And so they can express that in many different ways in many different settings and still
Hmm.
be a man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I see there's some people in here that really were big fans of Kevin, and I hope that they don't feel too offended by the conversation. Wager Investment says you are trolling a dead man. With all due respect, now I'm not trolling Kevin. Kevin did several videos about me when he was here, and so we talked back and forth. It was respectful. The video Kevin did about me was actually quite positive. Actually, believe it or not, there was a woman that was making things up and lying on me on the internet or whatever, and he kind of came in and was very defensive and supportive, and I appreciated that. But overall, I think that it would be disingenuous to just lie and act like everything that happened on that platform, that whole movement is good for the black community.
Well, the
It's not.
delivery, I mean, it is the delivery was, I think it was damaging to watch
Yeah.
the delivery of what he had to say. I don't even, I, I don't even really disagree with a lot of his points, honestly. I mean, if I really were to, he has a perspective. I'll just say that.
Hmm.
And everybody's entitled to their perspective. What I don't think is very helpful for the callers was his psychological abuse,
Yeah.
his contempt,
And
because contempt is abusive.
yeah, and what I
You know.
noticed was I would start noticing, guys copying, like
Mm-hmm.
repeating the things that they would hear, like like I could tell, like when people would start stuff about single mothers, like it's like, dude, like come on, like it was just crazy, and I feel like it's there's
Just
just
demonizing people just based on one thing.
well, I think that when your whole conversation, when
Women.
right when your whole conversation is, as a group, it's all about the women. I didn't hear a bunch of men coming out saying, "Oh yeah, we got to hold men accountable. Brothers got to stand up. We got to do better." I heard women are messed up because of blank. These women need to stop doing blank. These simps are marrying these single mothers. You just shouldn't be simping and be with no single mother. Like it was just stuff where it was always about the women and rarely about the men. Now
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say you can't put that on Kevin. Maybe Kevin did say things about men. I'm sure he did, many times, but that wasn't what people were repeating. That wasn't what everybody was saying, and I kind of feel like that's a reality people are denying, and I guess it's just easier to like, blame your problems on somebody else. Because that's what it is. I think men who are happy with the women that they were dating are happy in their situations. They weren't the ones who were sitting there enjoying seeing a black woman get beat up on. I think it was the men who were bitter, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
like my ex-girlfriend took my baby away. Like that's a real thing. Parental
Yeah,
alienation
it's
is a real thing.
terrible.
Or the
Mm-hmm.
woman that I want down the street won't date me because I drive a bus, or my mama was a single mother and
Well,
she was.
somebody won't date you because you drive a bus. I mean, you're too good for them anyway.
Yeah, right.
If you want to talk about high value, low value.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And then sometimes the stories I would hear some men tell about things that women would do would make me say, what kind of women are you looking at? Like, what kind of, like the types of women that I've dated, I'll be like, damn, they would never do something like this. I don't even talk to women like that. So I think that you have to, when you aren't getting what you want, you have to figure out, like, what crowd are you chasing? What crowd are you looking at?
Or there's two sides to the story. Sometimes you talk to those women, they'll be like, let me tell you what really happened.
That's
he
true.
did this, but he gonna say this, but let me tell you my side of the story. There's always two sides. Always two sides. Yeah. Once you hear the other side, you're like, now I see. Now I see what's happening.
Well, I will say, and by the way, you listen to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. If you go to boyceandalicia.com, we have some free stuff there. If you're interested in leveling up your life in some way, whether it's getting rid of the drama in your finances or your relationships, we've actually created some pretty cool stuff that you guys can feel free to take a look at. Also, we have some financial workbooks for kids. I believe deeply in preparing your kids for the future economically. So if you'd like to take a look at the financial workbooks for children we put together in the Black Business School, feel free to go to financialworkbooks.com. The URL's on the screen. So let me look at some of the comments here. Let's see here.
What's the comments?
He mirrored the energy he got. Okay, that's what Mojo says.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Okay, just because you like someone doesn't make them obligated to like you. That's true too. Everybody says it's okay to simp for another man. If I'm not mistaken, the term single woman first came out in the Monaghan report. Did it? That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Why is this man still making content about a man that never beefed with anyone? Nah, Kevin may.
Oh, he didn't like me at all.
Kevin, he beefed with Alicia. He beefed with me. I don't know what you're talking about, son. Kevin's a smart man. He knows that people gonna talk about him. That's what he always wanted.
Yeah, because I was like, who is he? What's his name? I didn't even know who he was.
Yeah, remember he did YouTube videos for years trying to get attention, and nobody paid attention.
Yeah.
And then when he beat up on that lady and told her she was gonna die alone, that's when he blew up. But go back, look at the channel. That channel been around for like years. I gotta go check, but I think it's like 5 to 10 years old. So people only known about him for 18 months to 2 years. So let's not let that myth go around. Kevin Samuels wasn't running a dating show. He was showing men how to choose wives, not domestic partners, actual wives. I'm sorry, Darren, but that's bullshit. Because Kevin didn't have a wife himself. I mean, let's just keep it 100. He had 2 ex-wives. So if I'm looking to know how to pick a wife and stay married, I'm not going to talk to a person who has 2 ex-wives. I'm just not, right? Second thing is, the lady he died with only had known him for 24 hours. Now we might all die in a lot of different ways, but I don't know about y'all. If you talk about dying alone, dying with a woman who don't know you, like it's literally been less than 24 hours since she even knew your name. That's about as close to dying alone as there is. So I think that if you're going to talk about it, you should probably talk about it with some honesty. The reality, he wasn't that advice. I'm not saying that advice is all bad advice, but that's not the advice that's going to show you how to get a wife. That's advice that's going to show you how to get a piece of ass, how to look good and smell good and all this other stuff. And also it's not realistic in terms of this idea where men get married and make all the rules. I just don't think that tends to work very much. Even in the Nation of Islam, as traditional as they can be, the men don't make all the rules. They have very strong women in the Nation of Islam.
Oh, yeah. Smart women, too.
Smart women. Yeah, you ain't going to walk up in there talking about, I'm the man. This is what I want. This is how it's going to be. And that just don't exist no more. If you want to do that, that's cool. Just go get you a dog and you can tell your dog what to do. Your dog will always obey you. But your wife ain't going to be your dog, bro. It ain't going to work like that. Let me see here. I agree with you. Would die alone if you have an ignorant thought process. In most situations in life, everyone will if we don't wise up. That's true.
Yeah.
Yes. The question is, did you invest in some relationship that is going to be there for you when times get tough? And what men don't realize is that when you're in your 20s and 30s, you have a lot of energy. Things are great. Then you get to your 40s, you start getting a little tired. You get to your 50s, you get real tired. Then you get older and you become vulnerable and, you start having health problems. And you kind of, one benefit of a caring wife is that, it's nice to be able to tell the nurse, yeah, my wife is waiting for me outside. You don't want to be
Did you
like,
like saying that?
yeah.
When
I
you
mean,
had your
well, the thing was, I've had to be in our marriage, I've had to be put under twice. And I like the idea that I could go unconscious knowing that you were looking out for me.
I was.
Yeah, while I was under. And the truth is, like, I would feel really shitty if I had some girlfriend I've been dating for a couple months and was trying to put that on her. Some women would be like, I didn't sign up for this.
He signed up for this whole man and his
Right. So and maybe it was just from my experience too. Honestly, when you become like more of a public figure, like I kind of became internet famous, and women would want to meet me because of that, which was on the surface, it was a benefit. The downside though is that if a woman sees you and she sees you as Superman, she doesn't want to know Clark Kent. She doesn't want to see when you're weak and vulnerable. She wants to see you be the Superman that she's fantasized about. So same thing is true. Like when men meet a woman and they have a fetish about her, or they always need to see her beautiful. That means she can never take off her makeup. She can never gain weight. She can never lose whatever she had to attract that woman in the first place. So what happened was, after I kind of been around the world and kind of, been introduced to women in different spaces, I gained an appreciation for the women, who knew me before I was Dr. Boyce Watkins.
Well, there's a certain level of intimacy. That's what you're talking about. Intimacy. Bless you.
Thank you.
You having a fit. Yeah. So there's a certain level of intimacy that you're talking about. I don't just see you, bless you. I don't just see you as the Boyce Watkins. I also get to see you, bless you, and with a bunch of different hats on. So I think a lot of men, they really want to date a woman who sees them completely, not just what they want to see. Here I am dressed in this nice suit. I smell good all the time. I also, the intimacy is being able to fart in front of each other. Being able to, go work out, go run a half marathon, and we smelling like, bless you, smelling armpits with each other. That's a level of intimacy, and I love you anyway. Yeah, you just farted on me, but I still love you. That's the intimacy that men want. They want to be able to be themselves. They want to be able to like show all the different sides of themselves and have it be received in a way that's healthy and positive. I love you anyway.
Well, I think the hard part is like when they started putting my net worth on different websites, right? And there will be women that would find that appealing. If somebody wants to be with you because you have money, well, you better always have money.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have money anymore, they're gonna leave.
Because the relationship was just based on just that.
Yeah. What was it? Well, Antoine Walker, the basketball player who went broke. He was with Evelyn Lozada, one of the basketball wives. And when he went broke, she left him.
Was gone.
She was gone, and she went and found another man who wasn't broke. Some baseball player. She had a baby with him.
She don't know how to love.
And that's so. What it is like, if you have these like artificial trappings that'll pull a woman in, like fame or power or money, you might use those things to be appealing or whatever. But then you realize, like, we really still don't have anything. Like, I know you're here because you're thinking about the things I could do for you. It would be very hard for you to convince me that you really want to be next to me, that you're really a person that sees into me and sees the value that I can bring all the way to the core of who I am.
It's shallow.
Yeah, it's very shallow.
Very shallow.
Yeah,
no substance.
So that's the paradox of having money and attracting women because you have money. Like if you really know that she really loves you for that money, do you really know what happens if the money's not there anymore? And that's kind of a tough situation to be in. Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. Yeah, I think I saw something where they would I don't know if this was true, but they were saying that Michael Jordan spent over $1 million a week making his wife happy. But that's probably just, Well,
he's worth $1 billion.
Yeah, but still. I don't want that kind of pressure.
Really?
Yeah.
If you were a billionaire, would you give me $1 million a week?
I would give you whatever amount of money you wanted. Well, I gave you access to my bank account because I know you didn't care about money. You know, if you cared a lot about money, I probably would be more watchful and cautious
Oh,
about
really?
letting you have access to my
You'd
money.
categorize me differently.
Yeah, because if you're dealing with somebody where you know that they really want your money, like you have to watch it a little more closely or they're going to take it.
Well, why would you have somebody like that even around you?
Right. Therein lies the paradox.
There it goes. Okay.
Right. So the money will attract women, but what kind of women is it really attracting? And what kind of relationships are you going to be able to build with those women? And I think that what the conclusion is that money can help you build a lot of shallow relationships, and that sometimes shallow relationships are okay. You know, if you're
Well,
32,
if it's
yeah, if
business.
you're 32 years old and you just want some easy sex or whatever, then yeah, you keep the women flowing with money. I mean, because you're basically buying a glorified prostitute to some extent, right? But when you get to the point where you're like, okay, I don't want to be a player no more. Like I've lived my life a little bit, and I want what's the next stage for me? So now you're 45 and you're looking ahead. You're going to be 55 in a decade and 65 after that. Then you're like,
So
okay,
you ready? You get ready to settle down.
well, you open your mind up to it, right? And
Uh-huh.
and you become more receptive, probably as you get a little bit older. And and then again, though, I can't even say in my case that I don't even know if I would have settled down if I hadn't met you. You know, I
There are
was.
some people. There are some people, even people in your family, that never thought you would get married.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean,
They make themselves known to me.
yeah, I was happy. I was happy single. You know, it was okay, and I think that that's really, to me, for,
You were happy single.
I was. Well, I generally focus very hard on being a happy person. Like I think happiness is a choice. It's a matter of being conscious about it. So I try to make the best out of whatever situation I'm in. But one thing I would say is, when there was a woman that asked me, like, how do I find a husband, stuff like that. She called me. She was in her 20s, and I said, really? I said, I can only speak from my experience, but I think one thing that might work is don't overlook those men who really adore you. Like um, a lot of people make the mistake, in my view, when it comes to dating, of dating like the most attractive person they can find or the best catch they can get. And I believe that instead of just measuring who you're with by how much you like that person, I think you should also heavily factor in how much do they like you.
It's got to be a two-way street. There are a lot of there has been some men that I've dated
Mm,
that I just wasn't feeling anymore. And
mm,
they really liked me. And there was no way. Like I felt guilty. I felt
mm,
guilty for dating them because I'm like, I can't give this man everything he's looking for. Like I don't I felt like there was someone else better for him. And it just felt terrible. I felt awful
yeah.
because I felt like I was living a lie. Like I wasn't really into him like that. So I said, this is someone else's man. He needs to be with someone else that's going to appreciate all of this. I can't appreciate what he has to offer right now. So I mean, I've actually broken up with people because I just felt like I cannot love this man the way he needed to be loved.
Well, you know what I will say.
It's a terrible feeling.
I agree with that, right? So I think obviously the assumption is that you're interested in that person, but like let's say that I had my own scale of 1 to 10 for women, and I was dating one woman who's a 9, who maybe liked me at a level 6, and another and another woman was an 8, but she liked me at a level 10.
Yeah.
I would rather be with the 8 who likes me at a level 10 than the 9 who likes me at a level 5.
Okay, but how did you like her? That's the question.
Well, 9 versus 10.
Okay. Oh,
That's
she
what I mean.
was a 9.
Right.
Okay.
So she's not necessarily my best choice, but she's the one that's really gonna
she's a choice.
put her best foot forward.
Choice.
She's a good choice because she likes me. What I'm saying is, I notice a lot of people will be nicer to somebody who doesn't like them than they are to somebody who really adores them. And
they're nicer to someone who doesn't like them.
Yeah. You ever seen that where women?
What the fuck is wrong with those people?
Right, but you know what I'm talking about. The women that'll chase the bad boy, or the guy who wants to. Or there's like a whole book called Men Love Bitches." Yeah, yeah. I mean, literally, y'all know what I'm talking about. Tell me if you know what I'm talking about. Like people who will bend over backwards for somebody who plays hard to get, but
Playing hard to get.
They won't respect the person who is like, hey, I like you, I'm really into you.
Like the good guys.
I think that's a self-esteem issue.
Yeah,
I think that there are people um who will, and I knew a lady like that who had one guy who was all over her, who adored her, and I said, but and then she had a boyfriend who was a complete asshole, and she was crying over the asshole. And the other guy was like, hey, I'd like to be with you. And I said, well, what's wrong with the guy who likes you?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I don't know. I just don't want to be with him. And I said, is he ugly? She said, no. I said, is this asshole is maybe, I said, maybe the sex is good. Is the sex good? She said, no, he's a small penis. And I said, so you're crying over the ugly guy with the small penis, and you got the better quality man.
So
who really wants you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I said to her, I said, I think that you have a self-esteem thing. I think you think that because he likes you, there's something wrong with him. And I think we both came to that conclusion. Her mother agreed with me, actually. Her mother said, you need therapy because you like this man less because he likes you, because you really don't like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, mm-hmm. So she looked at him like, well, if you like me that much, there must be something wrong with you, because there is definitely something wrong with me.
She's not conscious of it. I mean, people don't consciously do that.
Oh, her mother told her, though.
But what I'm saying is that individuals don't consciously do things like that. They just have these patterns in their life.
Right.
Where they're like, why do I keep dating the same type of woman? Why do I keep dating the same type of man? They're always like, they don't get to see. And then they come see me, and we work that out. We get down to the bottom of it. I love getting down to the bottom of somebody's psyche and trying to figure out why they behave in this way. It's not working for them. It's not working for you.
Well, I kind of think that overall, I think you're right. I mean, I go back to the fact that 76% of all Black girls grow up without a father in the house. I think that has an impact. I think that self-esteem piece, if it's not there, you can end up choosing men in the wrong way, or you can interpret something like a man's confidence to be attractive when it's really just arrogance, when he's really an arrogant prick. And when I see an arrogant prick, I'm like, that's not a man that's really gonna love you and adore you. He's a prick. He's gonna pee on you like R. Kelly. But seriously, no. Let me finish that though. So to me, it's like this idea that you want to chase up behind somebody who has let you know that that they don't care what you think, they're disrespectful to you in every way. That is a maturity and self-esteem issue that if you don't overcome that, that's going to cause you to waste your best years with the absolute worst people.
Yeah, so you pick a partner that's going to help you kind of work through a lot of your baggage. I mean, I think that all of us pick the perfect person for us. Like, clearly I must have picked you, Boyce, because my baggage, everybody has baggage. Whatever my baggage is, I'm working it out through you. And I'm growing because of that. And clearly you picked me. Why would you marry a therapist? Come on. It's like there's stuff there. And so clearly you picked me because you're working out something with me. And so that's your baggage. So we're perfectly together because we're growing together. And so people marry all sorts of different people, but you'd be surprised what a relationship can do to help transform somebody in the better way. So you pick the perfect person for yourself, but that does not mean that they are the perfect person. So you can date an asshole, but that doesn't mean you can't love that person.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
It won't be healthy. It can be healthy.
Well, loving assholes is hard. I'll tell you
difficult.
That. Assholes will make you pay all the tuition in the school of life.
Oh my Lord!
You will pay all this. You're gonna have student loans after that.
But in a sense, it's just like, thank all the past relationships you've ever had. You should thank those people because they taught you a lesson. Did they not?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I don't regret.
I learned lessons.
Well, I don't know how other men feel, but I don't regret any relationship I ever had. I've never looked at a relationship and been like, oh my gosh, she wasted my time. Because I think men have a different biological clock than women. I don't think, I always knew I could get married whenever I wanted. It wasn't, so I enjoyed my life. I think the times I did regret was when I didn't pursue the person that I really wanted, which was really a matter of me just knowing what to do or feeling comfortable and confident enough to do it. But
But listen, you grew up with two parents in the house, and even you had some self-esteem issues.
I did.
You know, so
I did.
so all of us are battling our own little battles in our life,
Yeah.
and feeling confident. And it's not just one, because you talked about 75% of women, and you point
Well,
to,
remember though,
but
I did not have my biological father. So I had a stepfather, and he's a great guy, but there is a difference between being raised by a father who's not yours.
so do you think he treated you differently than he did his biological children?
I think that he was a young father, so he didn't spend a lot of time with me. So a lot of the things that you learn as a boy, I didn't get to learn from him. I learned from watching him, and I learned on my own later.
So was he different with your brother then as he was
Yeah,
with you?
yeah, because he was older. He had my brother when he was in his 30s. He had me
Okay.
when he's like a teenager.
Well, I know you. I mean, I'm not saying, like, I know as children we make excuses for our parents' behavior when they fall less than what they should be. So I don't want to say anything negative in that way, but I'm hearing you talk about that, and so I just want. I'm just curious from you. How did that make you feel? You know, that you were treated in this way where your
Um,
brother and sister didn't have
it
to
wasn't
be.
so much about the way I was treated. It was just the experience we had together. I mean, we were just all young, so you had to figure things out. And it just was what it was, I mean, it's my dad's a great guy though. I'm very happy he raised me
Oh,
because
we love
because
Papa.
well
We
remember
love
he
him.
didn't have to do any of that, right? And I think that's why I'm a big advocate for fatherhood, because ultimately at the end of the day, you know, when a real man steps up to take the place of another man when it comes to raising kids, I think the black community needs to start asking, where were you and why are your kids just out here? And I think that if black men are going to go around holding black women accountable, which you certainly have a right to do that, hold these Negroes accountable who are abandoning their own goddamn children. Hold that accountable too. Talk about that. Like I get it if it didn't work out with the mother and the kids are living in another house. But when your kids are just being raised by anybody out here, and you up here on the internet calling yourself a high value this and high value that because you make a little money with your trucking company or whatever, but your kids are just out here looking raggedy.
Yeah.
That's not you're not an asset in the lives of anybody. Like you need to get retrained on some of that. So I just really think that if we're gonna start doing this whole accountability quest, like why not make it a broader conversation as opposed to just men are perfect, black women are messed up, and that's the end the story. That's silly to me.
Yeah, and I want to explain something because I have talked to men who have biological children around and they don't spend time with them as much as they want to. And one thing that I've learned from them in listening to their own perspective is that they feel that they're not worthy to be an adequate father to their children because they feel like they don't have enough money.
Mm.
And they think that instead, because really what children want, they don't want your money, they want your time and they want your attention. But a lot of men walk around thinking, I'm worthless because I don't have enough money in my pocket.
Mm.
And they mistake that for, I don't deserve to be around my children if I can't provide for them financially. So sometimes you'll see a lot of men who just won't even bother because they feel like they're just inadequate. And so
Mm.
I'm not good enough to be around these beautiful children of mine. It's so strange, to hear it from their perspective. So it's a sad thing because they really do love their children and they really do want the best for their children. They just feel like they're just not worthy to be around them. And of course, when you talk to children, they don't understand that. They want their dad with them.
Mm-hmm. So let's look at the comments. Okay. So many abandoned children. I agree, Denise. That's a big problem in our community. Let's see here. O'Shea Duke Jackson could teach you a thing or two. O'Shea Duke Jackson is funny. First of all, he stole Ice Cube's name. I'm actually friends with Ice Cube, and I'd like to ask him, like, do you know there's a guy on the internet that's using your name? Like, unless his real name is O'Shea Jackson, but that's Ice Cube's
Whose
name.
name is O'Shea?
There's a guy named O'Shea Duke. He does videos about me all the time. I never watched him,
Are
but
they positive videos about you?
No, he's a really funny looking guy. So he's probably just mad because girls don't like him. But he kind of claims to like hold a mantle in the manosphere. But it's really hilarious. And I just told him, I said, look, bro, if you want to talk to me man to man, which I know you won't because you're scared, I'll talk to you. back and forth chatty patty stuff. I know you're trying to get YouTube views, but half the stuff you're saying is stupid anyway. But then again, maybe he's got his following or whatever. But it's really funny. He's like he looks like Mr. Magoo, and and he he just talks shit about black women all day. It's like the bitchiest thing I've ever seen. It's really funny actually. Let's see. Mojo says, speaking of which, someone said Boyce doesn't take care of his actual daughter. Say it ain't so because the way he speaks, this can't be true. And it ain't true, man. My daughter, first of all, my daughter's 32 years old, you idiot. And also, I paid 18 straight years of child support. So no, that is not me, partner. So no.
And not to mention, it wasn't just 18.
And I'm taking care of kids that are not my own.
It's not just 18 straight years of child support. I mean, you've been, financially.
Generally speaking, I've supported probably 8 kids total.
Really? Is it 8?
Yeah. Well, let me see. I have my 5 guy kids and our 3. Yeah.
5?
Well, 4 guy kids, 1 daughter,
4?
and then yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And then that don't count all the dozens of young people that call me and ask for mentorship. Someone borrow money, someone ask for a job. And yeah. So don't even, that's silly, bro.
No, I mean, Boyce, you do a really good job. You really do a good job.
Well,
with all that you do.
With kids is tough. But one thing I will say, though, is I do advise guys in general, when you have a child with a woman, make sure your values are aligned, because it's very difficult to try to have an impact on a child that doesn't live in your house, and I think this is where men have to really think carefully about where you put your penis. If you're putting your penis in every pretty girl that walks by, you're going to end up in a really tough situation later on, because child support court is terrible. So just my 2 cents. Let's see here. Kyrie Cribbs says, just tuning in. Please tell me they ain't talking about Kevin Samuels again. We're talking about a lot of stuff. Sound like you talking about Kevin Samuels. Let me see. Let me put a title on your name, Dr. Alicia, says Sharona. Okay.
What does that mean?
Thank you. She put doctor instead of just Alicia.
Oh, okay.
Omar says, that's another can of worms. Please not open that can. Let's see. A moment, WMD. Some males don't learn to love properly, and for many, this means they learn the lesson that love does not equal control until it's darn near too late. Yeah,
it doesn't. And
that's a good comment.
I feel terrible because the unemployment rate for Black men is so high.
Yeah.
Compared to other groups, especially in Chicago. Weren't you telling me about that? Unemployment rate in some areas of Chicago is just like really high, and it's just awful. To think about the fact that child support court is, shoot, you don't pay that child support, you're going to jail.
Yeah,
being locked up somewhere.
Yeah,
I mean, society tells you ain't nothing if you can't contribute.
Well, I'll tell you. After I dealt with child support court and the disrespect they showed, I remember thinking, I am never going to have a child without being married. And whether I get married or not, I said, I'm going to secure my legal rights. I'm going to make sure nobody can ever keep me from having my rights as a father. That was one thing I wanted for sure. Let's see here. Keith says, what about the epidemic of women dating men that know the man has kids and is not taking care of them, and they get pregnant by them and think that they will change?
They do think they will change.
That's a bad decision. If you're in that category, then don't do that.
It is true. I don't know why. I mean, sometimes people can just be blinded. Mm-hmm. And they can't see clearly. Sometimes we just get into that.
You know what I think it is sometimes too is people are not like one of the reasons that people, I think, get upset about the way I break things down on the channel is that I'm a big advocate for critical thinking. And I don't think critical thinking is real popular. I just don't think that we get enough training of that as kids. I don't think structured ability to analyze is seen as a good thing. Like if you're like some idiotic, if you're some rapper that can barely spell his mama's name, and you like, and you're on Instagram talking crap about your baby mama or whatever, you'll have 10,000 people watching. But if you're really trying to help people elevate their thinking, that's not as much interest to people. And what the effect I've seen is people just make dumb choices. Or undisciplined choices. And maybe it's a function of trauma as children. Maybe it's, which creates these addictions. Like, because you're in pain, you're seeking anything that'll get you out of that pain. So you meet a man that looks good. You're not thinking anything, you don't want to judge, because maybe your pastor told you not to judge or whatever. So he's bringing all this baggage into your life and the lives of your children, but you sleep with him anyway because it's going to feel good. He looks good. And that's it. Like, you're thinking completely short term. There's no sort of logic in terms of, and sex and love is like, it tricks us. I think it causes people to make highly illogical decisions. Like, dude, why are you sleeping with that stripper without a condom? Like, that does not end well. But guys will do that because they think, oh, well, I want to be a man. And because I'm a man, if she giving it up, then I'm supposed to take it. It's like, yeah, you're going to take everything. You're going to take that STD. You're going to take that, that crazy baby mama you got now. You're going to take whatever comes with that choice you just made. And I really think that at the end of the day, one simple idea that we have not yet embraced as a community is this. If you don't have some degree of sexual discipline, you will never be successful at hardly anything you ever try to do in your life.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Boyce. And I think that, there's so many people who are attention starved and they're looking for love in all the wrong places a lot of times. And it feels good for if you're coming from a place of depleted affection in your home, it just feels good to have somebody pay attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't even think, you're not even thinking about a baby. You're not even thinking about all that. You're just thinking about, this is comfortable and this feels good.
Yeah,
and so,
right. And so somebody should explain to you where babies come from. Like, somebody should let you know, like
but
no,
I'm sure
you think
these people know where babies come from. Just in that moment, they're not consciously aware. They're not consciously thinking about that. They just want to have somebody to love them.
And you said the operative word, conscious.
Yeah.
That's why conscious Black people, we use that word conscious a lot. Everybody want to talk about how conscious they are. Well, consciousness is awareness. So you're right. They're not conscious. They're operating purely on, almost completely on subconscious.
Yeah, but it's a need. It's a need.
It might be a need. Right. I get it. I get it. But if I'm a little hungry and I have a need to steal a piece of bread, I'm going to stop because I know that stealing that bread is going to send me to jail. I'm going to find some other way to eat.
Well, the thing is that you take the chance. You say, you know what, I'm going to steal this bread. Isn't that movie Les Miserables? Isn't that what that movie is about?
Mm-hmm. I guess.
The little boy steals a piece of bread. He spends his entire life paying for it. Anyway, that's beside the point. But anyway, it's just like, in that moment, you're blinded because you're not thinking about anything else but the fact that I need this comfort.
Right.
And I think a lot of women, a lot of little girls, are attention stars. So I'm agreeing with your point about not getting enough attention from their father or not feeling like they're getting enough love at home, and they just go anywhere. They go anywhere to get.
And I think that's why that's the difference in the little girls that become successful and the ones that don't. The ones that are able to understand the concept of delayed gratification. That's a very important concept. Did you know that when they measured the most successful cultures in the world, they said the Nigerian culture was the most successful? I mean, putting aside some of the negative connotations in terms of things that happen in Nigeria, we know they're not perfect, but they said the Nigerian culture is the strongest culture, right up next to the Jewish culture, for 3 reasons. They said, one, because they believe deeply in education. You're not going to be a Nigerian kid in most families and not get a high level of education. 2, they had high self-esteem, very high sense of pride in being Nigerian. It's a very, very big thing. Number 3, and this goes to your point, they really embrace delayed gratification. They understand, they teach their children, you sacrifice now so you can have more later. That's the opposite of what happens in the African American community. We don't, as a community, in many cases, we don't value education. We value ignorance. We will celebrate an ignorant person more than an educated person. We will get mad at somebody because they have education. Our kids, half our kids coming out of high school can't read, right? It's not just the school system; it's also the family. The kids can't read, but they can twerk. They can't read, but they can play basketball. They can't do math, but they can show as hell throw a football down the field. They can bust a rap. So education is not a high priority in a lot of our families. Number 2, the self-esteem issue is definitely a problem because we all trying to be white. We're not really proud to be who we are. And then 3, that last piece, delayed gratification, that's not encouraged anywhere. If you listen to a lot of songs, I heard a Yo Gotti song. I remember when the lyric was, "We gonna ball today, fuck tomorrow." Basically, he's saying, I'm gonna have all my fun today. I'm gonna spend all my money today. I'm gonna live it up today. I don't even care about tomorrow.
Well, if you don't see your future in your, you don't see a future for yourself, then of course you're only going to live for today. But I think I just want to say a little bit more about the need for comfort and love. This, like, I think is so missing and can blind people. I mean, even a little baby. They did the experiment with baby monkeys. On one side of the room, they'll put food, and then on another side of the room, they'll put a warm body, and that baby will go to the warm body and snuggle up with a warm body first before they even have sustenance for their body, for eating, before they eat or drink. They want that love and comfort. So I just want to highlight like how important it is, to have that and to feel that. And I think that's what I was talking about when I said coming from a nurturing, loving home is important for children. You leave that home, you need to feel that you're valued and that you are important.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But I think, I will say too, though, that, as you and I talked about, I can't say I always got all the nurturing, all the love, and all the support and attention I needed growing up. But I did get enough attention from my parents when they taught me about delayed gratification.
Oh yeah.
They taught me that you can't just do whatever feels good in the moment, because there will be a price to pay. You will have to pay the piper. You go to college, you may not want to study right now. I had a lot of friends in school. I had to fight. I couldn't even have a lot of friends in college because the other dudes didn't want to study.
Wait.
These niggas.
So all the men that you
all
saw
the men I knew in college
did not want to study?
almost no, not like
What
me.
school
Not
did you go to?
no. They would study like 3 hours a week, 4 hours a week. They would
Really?
study, yeah, and rarely, like if I went to the library on a Saturday night, nobody would go to the library. I'd be in there with a couple of Chinese kids. You know what I mean? They'd be at the step show. They would be out at the club.
Okay,
They'd be banging some random girl they met. Like these dudes.
Okay, this is extreme because
No, I'm telling you, it was very hard to have black male friends in college because I did not know. And again, it was probably my selection. Like if I gone to Harvard or Yale, I'm sure I would have met a different kind of black men. But most of the brothers I knew, if I was looking for somebody to play basketball with, they was there. If I wanted somebody to go to a step show with, I could find somebody.
Okay,
If I wanted to go hang out and do whatever, if I wanted to smoke weed and sit around, I didn't smoke weed, but if I want to smoke weed and drink, plenty of dudes around. But if I say, let's go to the library and study 8 hours today, so we can really be the best students we can be, so we can literally.
You could not find one person.
I could not find one black man on that campus who would go to the library and rock it out with me for 8 to 10 hours a day.
All right, so that was your world. I just want to talk about, you're speaking about your world.
Right.
But
look at it, it shows itself in the statistics. Black men, the black boys aren't even, a lot of, I'm not saying every black man's ignorant. I'm not saying that at all. There's plenty of intelligent black men. But you've even seen online. I think Kwame Brown, that old idiot from the NBA, was doing all these videos saying, oh, he talks about intelligent black people. His fan is for intelligent black people. That's arrogant. That's arrogant. Like, I'm like, what is wrong with being an intelligent black man? You have to be intelligent as a black man. White people are trying to kill you. They are trying to poison you. They're trying to take away your wealth. They're trying to destroy your family. If you're not an intelligent black man, then you will perish in this world. You gotta be 2 steps ahead of your competitor. I understood that from my father because my dad is an intelligent man and a soldier. A lot of these brothers don't get it. They think you can sit around, smoke dope all day, stay high and drunk all day, get a bunch of girls pregnant, throw all your money away, and then you're surprised when the white man rolls up and takes you out. Well, he took you out because you're a goddamn punk. And the reason, let me just say this, I'm getting triggered right now. The reason I love Dr. Claude Anderson is because he calls it out. He calls it inappropriate behavior. He says that you are shocked that you lose. He said the reason that the white boy ran up in that grocery store and shot up all them black people is because they don't have any fear of the consequences. They know that your men are undisciplined, generally undisciplined, not all of them, but generally speaking, they know you ain't gonna do shit about it. That's why Tekashi 6ix9ine went and snitched on damn near everybody in hip hop and dared them. He said, test my gangster. All y'all supposed to be gangsters and thugs. Y'all gonna come get me. Come get me. I'm out. I'm outside every day. And nobody came and got Tekashi 6ix9ine, just like nobody ran up on the Buffalo shooter. Nobody ran up on George Zimmerman, because you got a bunch of dudes that'll talk a bunch of stuff and won't back it up with anything. That's how the black man is viewed by the world, in my opinion. We're not viewed as a warrior race.
No, we're not.
We're viewed as a pack of losers. And I'm not saying that's true. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's our destiny. But in college, I felt it because I said, I can't find nobody else that wants to hang out with me at the library. Everybody want to go and kick it at the club. And I didn't understand
I just
it.
find okay, so that was your reality. But I went to step shows, I went to parties, I studied for 8 hours. I was very, very well rounded, by the way. And there was a lot of Black people around me. Maybe you should have gone to IU.
Maybe
you should have come to Indiana with me a little sooner.
y'all did have y'all did have smarter students than we did. I ain't gonna lie.
I don't know what's going on in Kentucky. What was happening in Kentucky? But there were plenty of people. There were plenty of people like that. I hate that was your world.
Well, that's what I saw. And even when I was at IU, there was a guy.
Well, we met in the library.
Well, I almost pledged Q in undergrad, and I didn't because they had a party. They had a party where these guys. They had like offered these ladies a ride home, and to get them a ride home, they were hitchhikers. And they told them, if you want to ride home, you have to go to this party and do sexual favors for like the guys at the party. And I remember when they did that. These are just the Qs on my campus. This is not representative of all the Qs. And I remember thinking, that's like the weirdest shit I've ever seen. Like, why would all of y'all just line up and go sleep with the same lady over and over again? When this lady probably packed full of diseases, like you need to call the CDC right now because we about to have a super spreader event. And the other thing, and I remember there was another guy I knew when I got to IU.
A lot of people do all these outrageous things.
Well, I just saw. I mean, just the thing is, it was really. I ain't gonna lie, it was really hard operating in the space where the influences that media puts on Black males are so destructive sometimes. Like they deliberately put it in the hip hop and in the music. Tank made a good point. Remember Tank, the singer? When he went on Drink Champs, which is again, that's another show I would never go on. I don't want to be a fucking drink champ because being a drink champ means you're gonna die from liver failure, or kidney failure.
So alcohol, because I know in your world, alcohol and people who drank, they just were out of control with it.
I'm not saying drinking is bad.
By the way, I was totally wasted today.
I don't think drinking. I don't think drinking is bad. Right. I think that. But the thing is, I don't want to be a drink champ.
Okay.
You understand? There's just wanting to drink, like taking a drink of this and drinking that. Like you drank that rum and
I had rum punch. Yeah, and you know how I am. I'm like one drink is good for me.
That really got you. I know.
That rum punch really. It punched me.
Right.
One drink.
Right, but that's the thing. Like drinking is fine. I'm talking about. I didn't want to be a drink champ. Because I knew a lot of Black men who were drink champs, and many of them are still alcoholics to this day.
Oh,
and I would see how it affected their family. I would see how their children didn't respect them.
Wow,
you got an 8-year-old son that's got to step over his daddy because his daddy done passed out in the front yard. I never wanted to be that guy because my father, in his version of masculinity, he's the type of guy that would check me and would be like, why would you ever want people around you who are dependent on you to see you in that way? Like what is, like you're supposed to be the strongest link, but you're presenting yourself as the weakest link. So when you look at some of the Black women who've tried to adapt to this, some by making excuses for the behavior, some just, being upset about the behavior, or some of them having to become masculine themselves to make up for the behavior. I understand where they're coming from to some extent because the Black man has just been misled on what manhood even looks like in the first place. And I'm just a believer that we got to bring manhood back. We got to really
not in a toxic way, right? Not in a way that's helpful, right?
Right, not in a toxic way, but also it can't be in a way that's defined by women either. I don't want women telling me what it means to be a man. I don't. No, as men, we should define that. And then we should work with women and listen to women and respect women. But women,
manhood is respect for women, for sure.
I agree.
That's
I agree.
It, right?
I agree. I agree. Yeah, but I think so in some areas we might have to agree to disagree. But I think
like what?
Just I don't know. If I'll bring it up if it comes up. But I will say, in general, though, when you're just sort of looking around, what you're really seeing in the Black community in terms of some of this weird behavior you might see online is you're seeing the absence of manhood.
Yes.
Yeah. And then sometimes you're seeing the absence of womanhood too.
For sure. Yeah.
So anyway.
I agree. We
Well,
should mark the calendar. We agree.
oh yeah, I know,
We
right?
agree today.
We agree today. We agree
It's a
today.
good day.
All right, everybody. Well, you know what? We have been talking for a long
How
time.
long have we been
Let
on
me tell you
here?
who's in the chat. My homeboy Mark the Great is in here. Mark is I'm gonna put Mark's comment on the screen. I don't even know what Mark said, but Mark, he plays Call of Duty with me. That's my buddy right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mark says we have to realize that the effects of slavery are deep rooted, and sometimes we act as if we don't know where a lot of this behavior came from. Post traumatic slave disorder. That's a great comment, Mark, and it's 100% correct. And I didn't even know what Mark said. I just knew that whatever he said, it was going to be good. I feel like that's a great comment for us to end the discussion on.
Post-traumatic
Something
slave
healthy.
disorder.
Something healthy. Rather than those old tired ass, Boyce, you simping. You talking about Kevin Samuels.
Oh, the Kevin Samuels
Yeah,
group.
yeah. We had a few Kevin Samuels groupies in here, man. Get off his
My heart,
testicles.
you know what? Let me tell you something. My heart goes out to that group.
I guess they're looking for a leader.
Find a home. I hope they find a home.
Like, who else's testicles can we swing from? Because now that Kevin's gone.
I hope they find a home in a way where it's a little more constructive for them.
They won't.
You don't think so?
No.
It'll just stay negative.
It'll be somebody else that'll pop in and be like, women are terrible. Women are bad.
And then they're just going to cling to that person.
Women are mean. Women hurt my feelings. Women are, these women, it's silly. It's like, again, I would encourage you, like, if you really, just be a man. Just be a man. I think listening to women is beneficial. I don't think you have to go fight women in order to make your point. In fact, sometimes the more you're fighting, the more weakness you're actually showing, and it's you don't have to fight. Just exist. I think that's one of the things that I believe on manhood is that you ain't got to respond to everything.
Yeah, I don't think fighting that's not healthy. I mean, disagreeing is healthy, but fighting is not.
Yeah, and the Black community has enough of that. I really think that as Black people, those of us that really want what's better for the community, I think that we have to understand each other better. Because, like,
we got to know who our enemy is. It definitely ain't each other.
Well, Mark made a good point. Mark talked about post-traumatic slave disorder. That's what it is. We're just a bunch of runaway slaves trying to figure it out. But I'm going to tell you, if we want to overcome post-traumatic slave disorder, the first thing we got to do is start educating our own kids. And we got to rebuild our families. And if I ever had as much money as Elon Musk, I would build Black-owned schools all across the country so that every Black parent could send their child to a Black school. And I would also implement family training on how to have a family, how to be a husband, how to be a wife, how to get along, conflict resolution, all that stuff. Because people don't know what they're doing. They start having kids and shit and getting married and no instruction manual, no training. Like, imagine if everybody got behind the wheel of a car and had never driven a car. Everybody would be dead. There would be just fiery burning crashes and dead bodies scattered all over the highway. Mm-hmm. In order to drive, you got to get a license. You got to get trained. And we don't get trained. We don't get trained on the most important jobs that we do.
Well, the thing is that we do get trained. It's just that we're trained very poorly.
That might be a good way to look at it, yeah.
We do have a blueprint of how families operate. And sometimes that blueprint isn't self-sustaining for a relationship. And sometimes we wake up. You're in situations that aren't good for you. And sometimes you wake up and realize you have to leave the situation because you want something better for yourself. Who knows? And maybe you can bring other people in your family along, but you can only save yourself. And, that's what I think I'd leave people with. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't even matter how old you are. I think you can always turn it around for yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's a miracle. And sometimes it doesn't even take that long of a process to do. There are people clients that I see them for 10 weeks or so, and the whole relationship can be turned around in a short amount of time. Just saying, let's agree on this. Let's agree that this is what healthy relationships look like. Go. And some of them just be like, yes, I got it now. It doesn't even take a lot.
Well, I'll say this. Mm-hmm. This will be my last piece of Uncle Boyce advice. I hope I can offer this and still be loved. When I think about everybody listening, those of you that took the time to hang out with us. And we're recording this live, and it's after midnight, so that means you're probably an intelligent person that is looking to grow and evolve in your thinking. So let me leave you with something that I think that's really, really worked really well for me. And I'm not a person that pretends to be happy and fulfilled. Like I really am that person. I'm not faking it. Generally speaking, I do an inventory of my life. I look in three key areas: health, wealth, and relationships. And where am I? Where am I trying to go? And am I happy where I am? So with health, you look at physical health and mental health. Physical health is, you're drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, getting enough exercise, taking care of yourself, going to the doctor, all that. Mental health is, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's getting toxic people out of your life, whatever. But maybe it's just being optimistic, like, do that inventory. When it comes to wealth, I just look to see, do I feel financially secure? Am I making enough money? If not, how do I make more money? Am I planning for the future? What does my financial situation look like all the way around? It's always changing, but you got to monitor that. Relationships, you know, most importantly, what is my relationship with myself? But then also, what is my relationship with the people that I care about? I don't care about the relationships of the people that I don't care about. People that are not part of that circle, it is what it is. But when it comes to like key people around me, I try to work on those relationships. I try to get help and support if I don't know what to do. I think about my business relationships. You got to think about all of that in terms of how you work with other people, how you interact with your children, how you engage with your woman or your man or whatever. And that's what I would say is the key to having a happy life. At that point, you're not really necessarily getting caught up in things like what somebody said on the internet or whatever. Like you're just living your life and doing you. So this internet stuff, I know we talk about it a lot and I bring it up a lot just because it's entertainment, but there's a reason why I don't watch hardly any YouTube videos. It's because my real life is not on YouTube. And I would encourage you do not let YouTube become your real life. If you listen to a podcast, listen to it, but my Lord Jesus, like it's not that serious, it's not that big of a deal. It's just people just running their mouths, saying whatever's on their mind, and that's just what it is. So find your bliss, find your happiness, and if you're happy, then you win. It doesn't matter if you're rich and happy or poor and happy. If you're happy, then you win. And I just want you to win. I want you to win by being happy. That's my 2 cents. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, every day, I don't know if you realize this, but every day I mentally list about 8 to 10 things I'm grateful for every single day. And it helps to keep me focused and directed. It helps to keep me appreciate what I have and not look at what I don't have. I really like that. And I also, when I think about the future, I always picture in my mind like the best scenario. So I have problems. Everybody has problems. But I always future picture like if I had to have a solution to this problem, how would I want the solution to look like? And I just visualize it in my head. I spend a lot of time alone during my day. And so I just like, okay, this problem is going to be solved. How would it feel if my problem was solved? I really do this every day, boys. And it really helps me. Sometimes it's surprising. I really should journal it. I don't have time to journal. But if I did, I really should journal some of it because sometimes it'll turn out just the way I imagined it. It's just crazy how that works. But anyway, so I think that all of us can benefit from that. Appreciation and visualization.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, excellent information. I appreciate that. All right, everybody. Well, this was a very long episode of Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. We actually have a free guide on how to figure out what your partner wants in a relationship. If you go to boyceandalicia.com, you can take a look at that. Or if you are into strengthening your relationships or looking for the right one, we also have a Black Love Challenge as well that you can get access to. So we have plenty of stuff. Just go to boyceandalicia.com. It's all totally free. It's designed to help you. And also, I mentioned to you guys earlier, we have financial workbooks for children. If you have kids and you want to train them on wealth and economics, then feel free to go to financialworkbooks.com. The workbooks cover all grades from 1 through 12, and they cover stocks, in investing, and money in general as well. So these are the things you do to put your kids ahead of the curve and we designed these workbooks. It took us 2 years to put them together with our team of experts, and we designed them specifically for Black kids, period. So we'll keep you guys posted on the trip and everything else. And I hope you guys also will consider going to the Black Wealth Summit, which is going to be July 1st through the 3rd. It's going to be the same time as the Essence Music Fest. I'm going to be there. Real estate expert Julian Gordon is going to be there. Lene Javette, who is a business strategist, is going to be there to talk about entrepreneurship. My brother Lawrence is going to be there. He's going to do generational wealth. He's very good at that. Also, my wife is going to be there as well. We're doing some stuff on mindset. She's a therapist, and so we got you covered. So feel free to join us at the Black Wealth Summit. It's going to be July 1st through the 3rd in New Orleans at the same time as the Essence Music Fest. So you can go to the Essence Fest, have some fun, and still also hang with us. So feel free to go to BoyceWatkins.com to learn about all of that. So thank you guys for hanging out. It was real. Love you. And Christina says great discussion. So I guess we must have did a good job. Well, we love you too, sis. Talk to you later. Have a good night. Bye-bye.